The embered arborealis, the sun dipped below the horizon, bathing the dense forest canopy in hues of crimson and gold. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and decaying foliage, a far cry from the fresh pine aroma he once knew as a lumberjack. Elijah, now transformed into something between man and tree, clung to the gnarled branches above, his heart pounding in time with the distant rustling of leaves. His eyes scanned the endless sea of emerald leaves, searching for any sign of danger or food. He was a stranger in this world, unsure if he could survive as a tree-dwelling monster. Luna, an elder who had lived among these creatures for centuries, offered guidance and comfort to Elijah on his journey. "Remember," she whispered during their nightly meetings beneath the moon's soft glow, "you are not just any tree dweller. You were once a lumberjack, and that strength still resides within you." But it was difficult for him to find solace in her words when Silas, a ruthless alpha monster, lurked in the shadows of the forest. The rumors spoke of his hunger for power and his desire to bring about the monstrous apocalypse, a fate that threatened not only Elijah, but every creature living within the forest. One evening, while scouring the underbrush for sustenance, Elijah stumbled upon a hidden grove. The trees here were tall and majestic, their leaves glowing with an ethereal light. As he approached, he noticed that the creatures within moved with grace and purpose, living in harmony despite their monstrous forms. The elder Luna had mentioned such a place before, a sanctuary for humans turned tree-dwelling monsters. But he never imagined finding it so soon. As he stepped into the grove, Elijah felt an overwhelming sense of hope. Perhaps here was his chance to reclaim his humanity and live in peace once more. The grove's inhabitants greeted him warmly, their eyes filled with curiosity and fear. They spoke of a legendary artifact hidden deep within the forest that could reverse his transformation, allowing him to return to his former life. But Elijah knew that doing so meant giving up his newfound abilities and severing ties with his friends in the grove. He wrestled with this decision for days, torn between the safety of his old life and the potential future he could create as a forest hero. In the end, he made a choice to embrace his monster identity and lead the other humans turned monsters in a rebellion against Silas and the impending apocalypse. With renewed determination, Elijah left the sanctuary, ready to forge a new path among the trees as the first forest hero. His heart pounded with anticipation, and he knew that the journey ahead would be treacherous. But he was no longer alone. The others from the grove followed him into the darkness, their eyes shining like stars in the night sky, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The air grew cold as the moon set, casting long, eerie shadows across the forest floor. Elijah stood tall among his newfound companions, gazing out at the vast expanse of trees before them. He knew that their path would not be easy, but he felt a surge of courage within him. For the first time since becoming a tree-dwelling monster, he truly felt alive. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting elongated shadows across the lush canopy above. Elijah perched precariously on a gnarled branch, gazing at the ancient grove before him. Luna led him through the tangled forest, her whispers of wisdom echoing faintly in the wind. "This is where we'll find answers," she murmured, her voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. Elijah felt a strange mix of excitement and apprehension. The grove was a beacon of hope amidst the looming threat of Silas and the monstrous apocalypse. As they ventured deeper into the sanctuary, Elijah noticed an eerie silence that contrasted sharply with the forest's usual cacophony. In the heart of the grove, a stone statue stood tall and imposing. Its intricate carvings depicted scenes of humans transformed into various monstrous forms. "Welcome to the Grove of Refuge," Luna explained softly, "a sacred place for those like us. Here you'll find solace and guidance." They approached a cluster of huts nestled amongst the trees, where several human-turned monsters resided. One by one, they emerged to greet Elijah and Luna, their eyes filled with curiosity and suspicion. They exchanged cautious introductions before gathering around a central fire pit. A man stepped forward, his face etched with age and wisdom. "I am Elder Xander. You seek the artifact of the ancients?" he asked, studying Elijah intently. "Yes," Elijah replied, meeting Xander's gaze. "I need to learn more about my transformation and how I can reverse it." Elder Xander nodded solemnly. We will help you, but be warned. The artifact is powerful and dangerous. It can restore your humanity, but it comes at a great cost. As night descended upon the grove, Elijah grappled with his decision. He yearned for his old life, but he felt a newfound sense of purpose as the first forest hero. I'll need time to think, he said, his voice heavy with emotion. But I won't make any rash decisions. There. The embered arborealist Elijah stood before the firelight, contemplating Xander's words as Luna looked on with concern. The other inhabitants of the Grove of Refuge exchanged uneasy glances. You must make a choice, Elijah, Xander said solemnly. The artifact can return you to your human form, but it will separate you from us and our common goal. A young woman stepped forward, her eyes flashing with determination. Her scars bore witness to battles fought and lessons learned. I know what it means to yearn for the old world, she said, addressing Elijah directly. But we need your strength now more than ever. Elijah looked at Luna, seeking guidance, but found only worry in her eyes. He glanced around the circle of faces, each with stories etched into their features like ancient runes. What about my humanity? He asked. I don't want to become a beast. Xander leaned closer, his voice low and grave. The artifact does not erase who you are, Elijah. It simply gives you the choice to hide it beneath your exterior. In this world, being human is often seen as a weakness. Suddenly, a rustling from the trees caught their attention. The circle of light from the fire flickered as shadows danced around its edges. A figure stepped into view, tall and imposing, with fur like obsidian and eyes that burned like coals. Silas, the alpha monster, stood before them, a malicious smirk playing on his lips. So, he sneered, you've found one of our secrets. He glanced at Elijah, then back to Xander. You think you can use it against me? Xander stood tall, meeting Silas's gaze with a calm resolve. We don't want war, Silas, he said. But if it comes to that, we will defend our home and our people. As the tension in the grove grew palpable, Elijah realized that the choice before him was not just about his own future. It would shape the fate of all humanity, and perhaps even the balance of power within the forest itself. He looked at Luna again, seeking answers in her eyes once more. I need time, he said finally. Time to think. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting elongated shadows across the leafy canopy above. A cool breeze rustled through the trees as Elijah pondered his decision at the edge of the Grove of Refuge, a hidden grove tucked deep within the heartwood of the forest. The elder Xander had led him here, sharing stories of a time when humans and monsters coexisted in harmony before Silas's rise. Elijah's gaze fell upon a young woman sitting by herself under a towering oak. Her eyes were closed, her face serene amidst the surrounding tension. He approached cautiously, not wanting to disturb her. As he neared, she opened her eyes and looked at him with a knowing smile. You've been here before, Elijah remarked, noting the familiarity in her demeanor. The woman chuckled softly. Many times, my friend. I've waited for those who seek answers, guidance, or simply solace. Elijah hesitated, unsure of how to respond. He felt out of place among these monsters, struggling with his newfound abilities and the weight of his past. The woman extended a comforting hand. I am Luna. I've lived many centuries in this forest. You carry a heavy burden, but remember, every journey begins with a single step. Her words resonated within him. Perhaps he could find answers here. He sat beside her and shared his story, from the moment he stumbled into the forest to the current predicament. Luna listened intently, offering insightful guidance and empathy. As they spoke, Silas's voice echoed through the grove, calling out for Elijah. The time has come, my friend. Choose your path, he growled menacingly. Elijah stood, a sense of determination washing over him. He looked back at Luna and nodded. Thank you. I think I know what I must do. With that, he stepped out from the grove, leaving behind the comforting presence of Luna and the safety of the Grove of Refuge. Silas confronted Elijah, his eyes gleaming with malice. You've made your choice, he sneered. Now prepare yourself for war. There. The embered arborealist Elijah stepped cautiously along the forest floor, Luna's wisdom echoing in his mind. You must learn to adapt, Elijah. His heart pounded like a drum beneath bark-covered skin as he approached the hidden grove he'd heard rumors of. Upon entering the grove of refuge, Elijah found himself surrounded by an assortment of tree-dwelling creatures, humanoid yet distinctly transformed. They moved silently amongst themselves, their eyes following him with curiosity and suspicion. A young woman approached, her leaves shimmering in the dappled sunlight. "I am Xander," she introduced herself, extending a branch towards Elijah. "Elder Xander sent word that you'd be visiting." Elijah hesitated, unsure whether to trust these fellow monsters or retreat back into the forest. But Luna's words continued to resonate within him, and he found his resolve strengthening. "I am Elijah," he said, extending a gnarled branch in return. "I seek advice on how to survive this new world." Xander nodded understandingly. "We are all here for the same reason. Come, follow me. I will introduce you to Elder Xander." They moved deeper into the grove, until they reached a large tree that seemed different from the rest. Its branches were adorned with intricate carvings and glowing orbs that flickered like lanterns in the twilight. Atop this ancient tree sat Elder Xander, her features obscured by leaves and vines. "Welcome, Elijah," she greeted him, her voice echoing softly through the grove. "I have heard of your struggles with Silas and the approaching apocalypse." Elijah recounted his story to Elder Xander, sharing the burden that weighed heavily upon him. She listened attentively, nodding occasionally before addressing him. "You are not alone, Elijah," she said gently. "We too face Silas and the impending war. There may be a solution." Xander's voice grew more serious as she spoke of an artifact hidden deep within the forest, one that could reverse their transformations, but doing so would mean losing their newfound powers, potentially leaving them defenseless against Silas. Elijah looked around at the other monsters gathered in the grove, each bearing a similar burden. He felt a pang of guilt for even considering such an option. Taking away their strength and agency seemed unfair and unjust. "I cannot ask you to give up your powers," he said firmly. "We must fight together against Silas." Elder Xander nodded, her eyes reflecting the flickering light of the glowing orbs. "As you wish, Elijah. But know that should you change your mind, we are here to support you." With newfound determination, Elijah left the grove of refuge and returned to the forest, ready to prepare for battle alongside his fellow monsters. As twilight gave way to night, he whispered a vow beneath the whispering leaves. "I will protect our home and face Silas with honor." Deep within the forest, Elijah's eyes flickered open, the first light of dawn illuminating his new home among the trees. His heart raced as he clung to Luna's wisdom, her words echoing in his thoughts like a soothing melody. "Remember, son of man, you are now one with the forest. Embrace your transformation." A young woman approached him, her face etched with concern. "Elijah," she whispered, "I have a warning for us all. Silas has gathered his forces and plans to strike soon." Luna sighed wearily. "We must prepare. Gather the others. The grove of refuge will be our stronghold." The forest seemed larger than ever now that Elijah's senses had adapted. He could hear the rustling leaves, the distant whispers of his fellow monsters, and the faint growls of Silas' minions lurking nearby. As they reached the grove of refuge, Elder Xander greeted them with a stern expression. "The time has come, my friends. We must band together to face this threat." Elijah felt his heart swell with pride as he looked around at the others. They were no longer just humans lost in the forest. They had evolved, becoming something new and powerful. In the days that followed, Elijah trained alongside Luna, Elder Xander, and the other monsters, honing their abilities to face the impending war. But as the moon rose each night, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. A part of him longed for the simplicity of being a lumberjack, chopping wood and living off the land. One evening, as they sat around a crackling fire, the young woman approached Elijah. "I know what you're going through," she said softly. "Before I became a monster, I was a warrior like you. But something changed when I embraced my new form. I found strength and purpose I never knew I had." Elijah nodded, understanding the woman's words on an instinctual level. He would have to find his own path, his own purpose, as he prepared for battle against Silas. As the day of the confrontation approached, Elijah found himself standing atop a towering tree, gazing out over the forest canopy. The wind whispered through the leaves, carrying the distant growls of Silas' forces. He closed his eyes, feeling the power that coursed through him, the strength of the forest flowing like veins beneath his skin. When the fight began, Elijah charged forward with renewed determination. He fought alongside Luna and Elder Xander, using every ounce of his newfound abilities to hold back Silas' relentless onslaught. Together, they managed to push him back, but at a cost. Luna was gravely injured, her once vibrant eyes now dulled with pain. As the battle raged around them, Elijah knew what he must do. He couldn't save everyone, but he could protect his friends and family. With a cry of defiance, he lunged at Silas, their claws meeting in a flurry of snarls and growls. The two monsters fought with everything they had, their blows sending branches crashing down around them. Elijah felt every blow as if it were tearing apart his very soul, but he refused to give up. He would not let Silas claim victory, not when there was still hope for the forest and its inhabitants. With one final surge of strength, Elijah managed to land a crushing blow that sent Silas reeling. As the alpha monster lay on the ground, defeated, Elijah felt a sense of relief wash over him. They had done it. They had survived. But as he looked around at his friends and allies, he knew their victory was far from complete. The forest still needed healing, and there would be more battles to fight in the days ahead. But for now, Elijah allowed himself a small moment of peace, standing tall among the trees as the sun rose over the horizon, casting its warm light on the grove that had become his home. Together with Luna, Elder Xander, and the other tree-dwelling monsters, they would forge a new path forward, one where humanity and nature coexisted in harmony. And though challenges lay ahead, Elijah knew he was ready to face them, his heart filled with purpose and determination. As the days passed, Elijah learned to embrace his new identity, becoming not just a tree-dwelling monster but a protector of the forest and its inhabitants. He stood tall among the trees, watching over the grove with Luna and Elder Xander by his side, ready to face whatever challenges the future held. The embered arborealist deep within the forest, Elijah perched among the leaves, gazing at the setting sun. The once familiar sight of the sun dipping below the horizon now seemed distant and foreign as a tree-dwelling monster. Luna lay nearby, her injuries still fresh. He felt an ache in his heart, knowing that she might not survive the night. Elijah glanced around the grove of refuge, their temporary sanctuary. The grove was bustling with activity monsters, humans who had been transformed like himself, living together in peace and harmony. Yet he could sense a simmering tension beneath the surface. The whispers about Silas' looming threat echoed throughout the grove. A young woman approached Elijah, her eyes filled with fear and determination. "Elijah," she called out, her voice barely above a whisper, "we need your help." He turned to face her, sensing her urgency. "What's wrong?" he asked. "There is an artifact hidden deep within the forest," the young woman replied, her voice trembling slightly. "It has been passed down through generations, but no one knows its true power." Elijah felt a spark of hope ignite within him. "What does it do?" he asked eagerly. "They say it can reverse our transformations," the young woman answered, her voice barely audible. "But doing so would mean losing everything we've gained here. Our abilities, our strength, and most importantly, our connections to each other." Elijah looked around the grove, at Luna lying injured, the monsters moving about their daily lives. He felt a pang of sadness as he considered what he would lose if they found this artifact. But then he thought of all they had been through, the battles, the hardships, and the friendships forged amidst it all. He looked back at the young woman. "We cannot give up hope," he said firmly. "I will help you find this artifact." In the heart of the grove of refuge, the air was thick with tension as whispers of Silas' growing power echoed through the trees. Elijah stood tall, a newfound confidence in his eyes, yet fear still lingered beneath. He could feel the weight of responsibility on his shoulders, knowing he was humanity's last hope against the impending monstrous apocalypse. Luna, with her centuries-old wisdom, placed a hand gently on Elijah's shoulder. "Elijah, we must venture deeper into the forest to find this hidden artifact," she whispered. but be wary of the dangers that await us." With a nod, they set off, accompanied by Elder Zander and a young woman who had approached Elijah earlier with her desperate plea. The journey was treacherous, testing their physical endurance and mental fortitude as they navigated through treacherous terrain and faced wild beasts that sought to challenge them. The group pushed on, relying on each other's strength and determination. As they delved deeper into the forest, Elijah felt a strange sense of unease, a feeling that something was watching them, lurking in the shadows. He tried to shake it off as paranoia, but knew better than to underestimate the threats they faced. They eventually reached a clearing where a massive tree stood tall and proud, its roots twisted and gnarled like the branches of an ancient oak. "This is it," Luna said, her voice barely audible. "The hidden artifact lies within this tree." Elijah stared at the massive trunk, feeling a strange mixture of hope and trepidation. He knew that finding this artifact could potentially reverse his transformation-attempting prospect, given the pain he felt for his lost humanity. But what if it wasn't worth losing everything else he had gained since becoming a tree-dwelling monster? The group approached the tree cautiously, sensing the presence of danger lurking nearby. They formed a defensive circle as Elijah attempted to unlock the secrets of the artifact. With each passing moment, his anxiety grew, and he could feel Silas' looming presence drawing closer. As they worked together, they began to uncover clues about the artifact's history, revealing its true power. It could reverse transformations, but not without consequences. The young woman who had initially approached Elijah broke down in tears, pleading for them to find a way to save her mother, the one who had first told her of this hidden artifact. But as they delved deeper into the mystery of the artifact, Silas made his move. A cacophony of roars and growls erupted from the darkness, and the group was forced to turn their attention away from the artifact to defend themselves against the onslaught. Elijah fought with renewed ferocity, using every ounce of strength he had to protect his allies. They were outnumbered and outmatched, but they refused to give up. As the battle raged on, Luna and Elder Zander held their ground, shielding the young woman and Elijah from harm while keeping Silas at bay. The fight was brutal, and it seemed as though all hope was lost when suddenly, a flash of light erupted from the artifact. The beasts that had surrounded them recoiled in pain, their forms twisting and contorting as they howled in agony. Elijah watched in awe as his allies fought back with renewed vigor, unleashing powers he hadn't even known they possessed. Silas, sensing the danger of the artifact, retreated into the darkness, vowing to return stronger than ever. The group, battered and bruised but alive, turned their attention back to the artifact. They had succeeded in unlocking its true power. It could reverse transformations, but at a great cost. The user would lose all memories of their time as a monster, erasing the connections they had formed along the way. Elijah stared at the glowing artifact, feeling the weight of his decision pressing down on him. He knew that reversing his transformation meant losing everything he had gained since becoming a tree-dwelling monster: his newfound powers, his friendships, and even the love he had found for this arboreal world. But with Luna's life hanging in the balance, he couldn't bear to let her suffer any longer. He stepped forward, taking the artifact into his hands. A rush of memories flooded through him, memories of his time as a lumberjack, of his transformation, and of the battles they had fought together. He closed his eyes, feeling the pain of losing it all wash over him. When he opened them again, he was once more a human, standing in the heart of the forest with Luna, Elder Zander, and the young woman by his side. The group left the hidden grove, knowing that their lives would never be the same. They returned to the grove of refuge, ready to continue their fight against Silas and the looming monstrous apocalypse. But as they looked out over the forest, Elijah couldn't help but feel a twinge of sadness. He had lost his newfound powers, but he knew that he still held something far more valuable: his humanity. The embered arborealist Elijah's heart raced as he clung to the massive trunk of the ancient tree. The group had ventured deeper into the forest, guided by Elder Zander's wisdom and Luna's intuition. They had faced countless dangers along the way, beasts unlike anything Elijah had ever seen, their bodies twisted and grotesque. Yet he felt different now, stronger and more attuned to his surroundings. "We're close," Elder Xander assured them, his voice barely a whisper. "The artifact lies within this tree." Elijah could sense the energy radiating from it, powerful and unpredictable. The air grew heavy with anticipation, the forest seeming to hold its breath as they approached. Silas must have sensed their presence too. His menacing laughter echoed through the trees. "We can't let him find the artifact," Xander said, a determined glint in his eyes. "It's our only hope." Luna took Elijah's hand, her touch comforting amidst the mounting tension. Together they climbed higher, feeling the tree's roots wrap around them like a protective embrace. The canopy above parted to reveal a small chamber. In the center of the room, nestled within crystal and vines, lay the artifact. "We made it," Luna breathed, her eyes wide with awe. Elijah hesitated, his heart heavy with the thought of losing everything he had become. But as he looked around at his friends, their faces filled with hope and determination, he knew what he must do. He approached the artifact, reaching out to touch it. The world seemed to shake around him, the forest coming alive with a chorus of whispers. Memories flooded his mind of Luna's gentle laughter, Elder Xander's wisdom, and the fierce warriors who had become his friends. Silas' sinister laughter echoed in the distance, a reminder of the danger that lay ahead. Elijah closed his eyes, embracing the pain as the artifact began to work its magic. The transformation was agonizing, every muscle contorting and twisting until he could bear it no more. He collapsed onto the ground, gasping for breath as the last vestiges of his monster self slipped away. Luna knelt beside him, tears streaming down her face. "Elijah," she whispered, fear filling her voice. He opened his eyes, meeting hers. The familiar warmth of humanity filled him, the memories of his past flooding back like a torrential storm. He looked up at the others who gathered around him, their faces filled with concern. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice cracking with emotion. "I had to make a choice." As they descended from the ancient tree, the forest seemed different, the air lighter, the trees less foreboding. Silas was still out there, waiting for them, but now they were armed with something more powerful than any weapon: hope. Together, they continued their journey, united in their determination to stop the monstrous apocalypse. Elijah felt a new sense of purpose, one that transcended his humanity and embraced the forest and its inhabitants. He knew that the battles ahead would be difficult, but he was ready. As they returned to the grove of refuge, the others greeted them with relief. But there was something else in their eyes: awe, perhaps, or respect. They had seen what Elijah had done for Luna and understood the cost he had paid. "You're a hero," Elder Xander said, his voice filled with admiration. "Now we must prepare for war." As Elijah's friends tended to his wounds, Luna approached him with a determined look in her eyes. She held up a small, delicate artifact, explaining that she had discovered it while they were resting. This artifact could help them fight against Silas and his minions. The group agreed to use it as a weapon of last resort, should the need arise. As they continued their journey towards the grove of refuge, they stumbled upon a young woman who appeared lost and terrified in the heart of the forest. She told them she had been taken by Silas' minions and pleaded for help. The group agreed to rescue her from the monsters holding her captive deep within the forest. While searching for the girl, they came across a hidden grove inhabited by other humans turned monsters living in peace and harmony. They welcomed the new arrivals, offering food, shelter, and advice about the forest's dangers. The group learned that the Grove of Refuge was protected by powerful magical barriers that kept Silas and his minions at bay. The group decided to stay for a short while, allowing Elijah to recover from his transformation and regain his strength. During their stay, they discovered more about the artifact's power, learning it could not only reverse transformations, but also amplify a monster's abilities. Elijah wrestled with his feelings of guilt for giving up his monstrous form, but ultimately decided to embrace who he had become, the first tree-dwelling hero. As they prepared to leave the grove, the group met Elder Xander, an ancient and wise figure who offered them guidance on their journey. He shared stories of the forest's history, including tales of powerful monsters and magical creatures that once roamed the land. The group listened intently, absorbing every detail as they prepared to face the challenges ahead. Their time in the grove came to an end, and the group set off towards their final destination, a confrontation with Silas and his minions. Armed with new knowledge, friendships, and a renewed sense of purpose, they ventured deeper into the forest, ready to stand against the monstrous apocalypse together. The embered arborealist in the heart of the forest, where ancient trees stretched towards the sky like hands reaching for the heavens, Elijah stood among his new friends. Luna and Elder Xander shared wisdom about the forest's dangers, while the young woman listened intently. As twilight approached, they made their way deeper into the woods, guided by a faint light. There, Luna whispered, pointing towards an ancient tree with twisted roots and glowing leaves. The chamber. Elijah's heart raced as he approached the tree, feeling out of place among these arboreal beings. The chamber was revealed to be a hidden room within the massive trunk, its entrance guarded by a small, delicate artifact that seemed to hum with energy. "We must be careful," Xander warned. "The artifact is sacred. Only those chosen by the ancients may enter." Elijah hesitated, knowing he was not one of those chosen, but also aware of the looming threat Silas posed. He looked to Luna, seeking her guidance. She nodded and placed a hand on his shoulder, giving him a reassuring smile. "We'll face whatever may come together," she said softly, her eyes filled with determination. "But we must be careful." Inside the chamber, they found themselves surrounded by ancient relics that seemed to pulse with power. A sudden rumble echoed through the room, and a wall of shadows appeared before them. Silas minions, dark and twisted creatures formed from the forest itself, stood guard over the artifact. "Prepare yourself," Elder Xander said grimly, drawing an ancient sword from his back. "We cannot let this fall into their hands." Together they fought against Silas minions, using every ounce of strength and skill they possessed. Elijah felt his anger and fear fueling him as he swung his axe, the sound of wood cracking beneath its heavy blade. The battle raged on, each blow leaving them weaker and more exhausted. As the last monster fell, they stood victorious but battered. Luna's eyes caught sight of the artifact, glowing brightly in Silas' absence. A moment of hesitation washed over her before she stepped forward, reaching out a trembling hand to touch it. A sudden surge of power coursed through the chamber, knocking them off their feet. As they struggled to stand, Elijah saw the artifact pulsing with energy, its glow fading as quickly as it had appeared. The chamber was once again silent. "What has happened?" Elder Xander asked, his voice shaky. Luna looked down at the artifact, a tear running down her cheek. "It's gone," she whispered, her voice filled with regret and sorrow. The artifact was destroyed. They left the chamber, their hearts heavy with loss. The ancient relic that could have saved humanity was now nothing more than a memory. As they emerged from the forest, Elijah knew that their battle against Silas was far from over. They had lost an opportunity to gain a powerful advantage, but they still had each other and the strength of their resolve. Elijah's eyes fluttered open, Luna's concerned gaze meeting his. The forest around them was still, save for a gentle breeze rustling through the leaves above. Their victory against Silas minions left him with a heavy heart and a lingering sense of dread. "Elijah," Luna whispered, her voice barely audible over the forest's quiet hum. "We must press on." He nodded, pushing himself up and wincing at the pain from his battered body. The group followed the path deeper into the forest, guided by an ancient tree that seemed to pulse with energy. As they journeyed, Elijah couldn't shake the feeling of unease. He remembered the artifact, the surge of power it released, and the mysterious chamber hidden deep within the heart of the forest. He couldn't help but wonder what lay ahead, and if they were truly prepared for whatever awaited them. They encountered a young woman along their path, her eyes filled with fear and determination. She spoke of a secret grove, a haven where others like them sought refuge from the monstrous apocalypse. Elijah hesitated, torn between his desire to protect humanity and his loyalty to Luna and his newfound friends. They eventually agreed to follow the woman to this mysterious place, hoping to find answers and perhaps a way to confront Silas once and for all. Upon reaching the hidden grove, they found Elder Xander an ancient being who had lived among the trees for countless centuries. He welcomed them warmly but warned of the challenges ahead. Xander led them to the Grove of Refuge, a tranquil oasis amidst the chaos of the forest. Elijah couldn't help but feel a sense of peace wash over him as he gazed upon the beautiful trees and crystal-clear waters. But that peace was short-lived as Xander revealed the existence of another artifact, one that could reverse Elijah's transformation. He explained that the ancients had created these artifacts to allow humans a chance at survival if they chose to abandon their humanity. Elijah hesitated, torn between his newfound powers and the weight of his past. Luna and the others stood by him, offering support and encouragement. They knew the decision was ultimately Elijah's to make. As darkness fell upon the grove, the group gathered around a crackling fire. The air grew cold as they discussed their options, each voice chiming in with thoughts and opinions. In the end, Elijah made his choice. He would not abandon those who had come to rely on him and embrace his monster identity. The embered arborealist Elijah's eyes flickered open, the glowing tree illuminating his face. His head throbbed with a dull ache as he sat up, his companions huddled around him. The night was cold, but the forest seemed to hum with an energy that offered them warmth and solace. "Are we safe?" Elijah asked, rubbing his temples. Luna leaned forward, her ancient eyes full of concern. "For now, yes. But Silas will not rest until he destroys us all." Elijah gritted his teeth. "Then we must prepare." "We've come so far, Elijah," Luna said gently. "Remember the Grove of Refuge. We can find strength there." The others nodded in agreement as they stood up, gathering their belongings. They set off once more, the glowing tree guiding them through the dark forest. As they journeyed deeper, Elijah's thoughts wandered to the artifact of the ancients that could reverse his transformation. He couldn't shake the feeling that he was betraying something by rejecting it. But he also knew that if he gave up his powers, he would lose the ability to protect those around him. "Elijah," Luna said softly, breaking into his thoughts. "Look there." They stood before an ancient tree unlike any they had ever seen. Its bark seemed woven with intricate patterns that shimmered in the moonlight. "What is it?" Elijah asked, approaching the tree. Luna shook her head. "I do not know, but I feel a powerful energy emanating from it." The others exchanged glances, their curiosity piqued. They cautiously ventured closer to the ancient tree, drawn by the strange hum that seemed to reverberate through the air. As they approached, the bark parted, revealing a hidden chamber within the tree. A small, delicate artifact sat atop an altar-like pedestal, humming with energy. Elijah's heart raced as he stepped forward. This is incredible," Luna breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. The others gathered around the artifact, each touching it tentatively. They felt a surge of power course through them, filling their veins with warmth and energy. Elijah hesitated, his hand trembling as he reached out to touch the artifact. He closed his eyes, feeling the weight of his decision pressing down on him. He pulled away, turning to Luna. "We can't use this artifact. We must find another way." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the forest floor, Elijah and his allies made their way deeper into the heart of the ancient woods. The forest seemed to change as they ventured onward. A thicket of twisted limbs and tangled roots grew more dense with each passing moment. "We must be close," Luna said, her voice barely audible over the wind whispering through the leaves. "The grove is hidden well." Elijah looked around nervously. Silas' influence hung heavy on their journey thus far. He could feel it gnawing at his soul, growing stronger with each step they took toward the heart of the forest. Suddenly, a rustling in the underbrush alerted them to movement nearby. Elijah tensed, preparing for battle as they approached the sound. As they emerged from the trees, they found themselves face to face with an elderly man, his eyes glowing softly in the dim light. "Welcome," he said warmly. "I am Elder Xander. The Grove of Refuge is this way." The elder led them to a clearing where other humans-turned-monsters lived harmoniously alongside one another. They were welcomed with open arms, and Elijah felt a sense of peace wash over him as they settled down for the night. As the day wore on, they learned about the artifact hidden deep within the forest, a powerful relic that could reverse their transformations if used correctly. But in doing so, they would lose their newfound abilities and friendships. The decision weighed heavily upon Elijah as he pondered his choices. Night fell, and as they sat around a fire, Luna spoke softly to Elijah. "My dear Elijah, it is your choice to make. But remember, you are more than just a lumberjack now." Elijah looked into the flames, contemplating his decision. He knew that he couldn't turn back, not when they still had a war to fight against Silas and his minions. As the fire crackled and popped around him, Elijah made up his mind. "I will not give up my new life," he declared resolutely. "We shall face whatever comes together." Then, the embered arborealist, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the forest seemed to awaken with a sinister hum. Elijah's senses were heightened as he clung tightly to Luna, his eyes scanning the trees for signs of danger. They had been traveling for days, following vague whispers about the Grove of Refuge, a place where the humans turned monsters lived in harmony. Luna's voice was soft but steady as she spoke. "The grove is close now, Elijah. We must stay vigilant." They ventured deeper into the forest, guided by the faint glow of bioluminescent mushrooms illuminating their path. Suddenly, they heard the distant roar of a monster. Silas, no doubt. Elijah's heart raced as he tightened his grip on the makeshift spear in his hand. Suddenly, Luna pointed ahead. There it is. A grove appeared before them, an oasis in the dark forest. It was lush and vibrant, unlike any part of the forest they had encountered thus far. They approached cautiously, sensing that they were not alone. Elder Xander emerged from the shadows, his face filled with surprise but warmth. "We've heard tales of a man like you," he said, regarding Elijah with curiosity. "What brings you here?" Elijah explained their journey and the artifact they had discovered, revealing that they were seeking guidance on what to do about their transformed state. Xander nodded solemnly, leading them towards the heart of the grove. "We have a hidden chamber within an ancient tree," he said. "It contains an artifact that might help you." As they neared the tree, Elijah felt a sudden surge of energy coursing through him. He glanced around nervously, realizing that their presence had been detected. A young woman stepped out from behind a tree, her eyes glowing with malice. "I've been expecting you," she hissed. "You should leave now." Elijah braced himself, knowing that they were in danger. Luna stepped forward protectively, her voice steady. "We mean no harm, but we seek the artifact within your grove." The woman sneered, her gaze flickering between them. "It's not yours to take," she spat, "and you would be wise to leave before Silas learns of your presence." Elijah felt his resolve harden. He knew that they couldn't back down now. The fate of humanity rested on their shoulders. They had come too far to abandon their quest, and he vowed to protect Luna and the others at all costs. The woman vanished back into the shadows, leaving them alone once more. Xander led them towards the ancient tree, guiding them up a winding staircase carved into the trunk. The chamber within was dimly lit, its walls adorned with intricate carvings depicting scenes of powerful beasts and humans living in harmony. In the center of the room stood an ancient artifact that seemed to hum with energy. It was small but delicate, pulsating with a power that made Elijah's heart race. He reached out tentatively, sensing its potential. "What is this?" he asked Xander. "The artifact of the ancients," replied the elder. "It has the power to reverse transformations, but at a great cost." Elijah felt torn, his mind racing as he considered the implications. If they used it, they would lose their newfound powers and friendships, something he couldn't bear to think about. But if they didn't, Silas would surely use their secrets against them. As they stood there, weighing their options, they heard a low growl echo through the chamber. They turned to see Silas and his minions standing in the doorway, their eyes filled with malice. "I've been waiting for you," snarled Silas, baring his teeth. "Now it's time to take what's mine." In the heart of the forest, Elijah's group navigated through a dense thicket of ancient trees that towered over them, their gnarled roots and twisted branches forming an impenetrable labyrinth. Luna's eyes shimmered with an otherworldly light as she guided them towards the hidden chamber within the ancient tree. "We are getting closer," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "but be prepared for danger." The forest seemed to react to their presence. its air growing thick and heavy as if holding its breath in anticipation of what was to come. Elijah gripped his axe tightly, his heart pounding with both fear and excitement. He could sense the power emanating from the artifact that Luna sought the key to their salvation or destruction. As they approached a massive oak tree, its trunk covered in intricate carvings that seemed to dance in the flickering light of Luna's magic, Elijah felt a sudden shift in the air. Silas and his minions were nearby, lurking in the shadows. "Prepare yourselves," Luna warned, her voice barely audible. "We cannot let them take the artifact." Elijah nodded, summoning the strength of his old life as a lumberjack, remembering the fierce battles he had fought to protect his land and family. He would not go down without a fight. They entered the chamber, finding themselves in a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals that cast an eerie light upon the walls. There, on a pedestal, lay the artifact they sought. It was small but delicate, humming with energy that seemed to pulse with life. Before they could reach it, Silas and his minions burst into the chamber, their malicious intent clear in their eyes. The air crackled with the tension of impending battle. The embered arborealist, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through the ancient woods, Elijah clutched Luna tightly as they stood atop a massive oak tree, overlooking the heart of the forest. Their hearts raced with anticipation and fear as Silas's minions approached the hidden chamber within the ancient tree. "What are we going to do?" whispered Luna, her eyes wide with worry. "They will take the artifact from us." Elijah's gaze was fixed on the approaching army of twisted monstrosities that bore Silas's mark. He could feel the power radiating from the artifact, a beacon that seemed to call out to them like a siren's song. "We can't give up now," he said firmly. "We have come too far, and we cannot let our past define our future." Luna nodded, her face set in determination. Together they prepared for the battle that lay ahead, knowing their fate and that of humanity rested on their shoulders. The minions reached the chamber, their growls echoing throughout the heart of the forest like thunder. Elijah felt his transformation surging within him, awakening with a fierce roar as he stood tall among the twisted trees. Luna followed suit, her own power flaring to life as she transformed into a magnificent creature that seemed to embody the essence of the forest itself. As the battle began, Elijah and Luna fought with everything they had, their newfound powers clashing against Silas's minions in an explosion of raw energy. The air around them crackled with magic as they held back wave after wave of monstrous attacks. But amid the chaos, a young woman emerged from the shadows, her eyes filled with an unfathomable malice. She attacked Elijah, her strikes striking him like lightning bolts that sent him reeling. Luna intervened, engaging the woman in a fierce duel as Elijah struggled to regain his footing. In the midst of the battle, they heard the sound of footsteps approaching from behind. Turning, they saw Elder Xander and another figure standing atop another tree, observing the fight with quiet determination. The other figure was a stranger, but there was something familiar about their eyes that sent a shiver down Elijah's spine. The battle raged on, the forest shaking with the force of their clashes. As the minutes passed, Silas finally emerged from the shadows, his form towering over them like a colossus. With a single sweep of his arm, he sent Luna and the young woman flying, knocking them unconscious. Elijah roared in anger, his power surging within him as he lunged at Silas. The two monsters clashed in a furious exchange that shook the heart of the forest to its core. Each blow landed with the force of thunder, sending shockwaves rippling through the ancient trees. But as they fought, Elijah felt a strange sensation coursing through his veins, a connection he couldn't quite place. He saw visions of his past life, flashes of memories that seemed to come from another time and place. And in those moments, he realized something. The stranger who had appeared during the battle was not a stranger at all, but a former friend from his human days. With renewed determination, Elijah pressed the attack, striking Silas with every ounce of strength he possessed. The air around them crackled with energy as their powers collided in an explosion of raw magic that shook the forest to its core. In the end, it was Elijah who stood victorious, his power surging through him like a torrent as Silas collapsed at his feet. As the dust settled and the forest lay still, Elijah turned to Elder Xander and the young woman, who had regained consciousness. He knew that their battle was far from over, but for now, they had won a crucial victory in the fight against the monstrous apocalypse. As the dust settles after their battle with Silas, Elijah, Luna, the young woman, and Elder Xander find themselves at a crossroads deep within the heart of the forest. The ancient oak tree they fought on looms behind them, its massive roots entwined like gnarled fingers reaching for the heavens. The young woman, who Elijah recognizes as his former friend from his human life, gazes upon the artifact lying nearby with a mixture of longing and fear. It is the key to their salvation or destruction. If used, it can reverse their transformations, returning them to humanity, but potentially dooming the forest to Silas's tyranny. Elijah feels a surge of anger towards his friend for working with Silas, but he also understands her desperation for a return to her old life. Luna, wise and patient as ever, suggests they seek counsel from Elder Xander before making any decisions. The Grove of Refuge lies not far from here, Elder Xander says, gesturing towards a dense thicket of ancient trees in the distance. There are others like us who have found peace there. As they make their way through the forest, Elijah cannot shake the feeling that danger lurks around every corner. He wonders if Silas's minions might be regrouping to launch another attack, or if other threats await them in the Grove of Refuge. His heart races with anticipation and fear, but he pushes onward, determined to protect his new friends and uncover more secrets about this strange world. The journey to the grove is long and arduous, fraught with obstacles that test their resolve and abilities. They encounter various creatures and obstacles, some friendly, others dangerous, each adding to the tension and uncertainty of their mission. Along the way, Elijah learns more about his friends' pasts, building stronger bonds with them as they navigate this treacherous landscape together. Finally, after days of travel, they reach the Grove of Refuge, a hidden oasis nestled among ancient trees, where other humans-turned-monsters have found sanctuary and peace. The grove is alive with laughter, music, and the aroma of cooking fires. As they enter, Elijah feels a sense of relief wash over him, knowing that they have finally found a place to rest and regroup before confronting Silas again. The people within the Grove of Refuge are welcoming, offering them food, shelter, and advice on how best to prepare for their impending battle against Silas. Elijah listens intently, taking in every word as he attempts to devise a plan to defeat the monstrous alpha monster and save his newfound home. As they prepare for the inevitable confrontation with Silas, tensions rise within the group. The young woman struggles with her feelings of guilt over working with Silas in the past, while Elder Xander grows increasingly secretive, hinting at hidden knowledge that could turn the tide of their war. In the heart of the grove, Elijah stumbles upon a massive oak tree with a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals. He approaches cautiously, feeling an inexplicable connection to the ancient wood and its vibrant energy. Within the chamber, he discovers another hidden artifact, a small, delicate object that seems to hum with energy. Elijah senses that this artifact holds great power, but he cannot decipher its purpose or how it might aid them in their fight against Silas. As they prepare for the final battle, Elijah and his allies face difficult decisions about the artifacts and their future. Will they use the ancient relic to reverse their transformations, risking all they have fought for, or embrace their new identities as forest-dwelling heroes and stand against Silas's tyranny? The fate of the forest hangs in the balance, and Elijah knows that no matter what choices he makes, the consequences will be far-reaching and potentially devastating. As they gather their strength and resources for the inevitable confrontation with Silas, Elijah cannot help but wonder, can they truly save their new home without sacrificing everything they once knew? Or is there another path that leads to a brighter future for both humans and monsters? The answers lie deep within the heart of the forest, waiting to be discovered. As the sun sets on the Grove of Refuge, Elijah gazes up at the stars, his mind swirling with thoughts of the battles ahead and the uncertain fate that awaits him. He closes his eyes, feeling the energy of the ancient oak tree pulsing around him. A strange sense of calm washes over him, as if the forest itself is guiding him towards a decision. Elijah awakes the next morning with a renewed sense of purpose. The journey has tested him in ways he could never have imagined, but he knows that he cannot turn back now. He takes a deep breath, ready to face whatever challenges await him and forge a new path as the first forest-dwelling hero. The battle against Silas will not be easy, but Elijah is determined to protect his friends, his new home, and the ancient woods that have given him a second chance at life. As he prepares to lead his allies into the heart of darkness, he knows that he must rely on their strength, trust in each other, and above all, remember who they truly are, not monsters but beings capable of greatness and hope in the face of adversity. The forest is watching as Elijah sets out to confront Silas, his heart pounding with anticipation and determination. He knows that the fate of the woods rests upon their shoulders, and he will not let them down. The journey ahead will be long and treacherous, but Elijah is ready to face whatever comes next. The forest is alive with the whispers of ancient secrets, waiting for those who dare to listen. And in the heart of darkness, a new hero rises, Elijah, the first tree-dwelling monster, ready to stand against the monstrous apocalypse and lead his people to a brighter future. As the sun sets on this momentous day, Elijah looks out over the ancient woods, feeling the energy of the forest coursing through him. He knows that he has made his choice. He will not turn back, no matter what lies ahead. With a determined nod, he sets out to face the challenges before him and forge a new path as the first forest-dwelling hero. And so begins the next chapter of Elijah's journey through the arboreal world, filled with danger, magic, and the promise of hope in the face of adversity. The ancient woods are watching, waiting to see what this lumberjack-turned-monster will do when faced with the greatest challenge of all, saving his new home from destruction. The embered arborealist, the group descends through the heart of the forest, guided by Luna's wisdom and the young woman's knowledge of its labyrinthine paths. They venture deeper into the ancient woods, hoping to find answers before Silas strikes. A dense thicket of ancient trees looms ahead, and Elder Xander cautions them about entering it. "This is a place of power," he whispers, "a crossroads where many paths lead to hidden chambers within the heart of our forest." The group presses on, following a narrow path that winds through the thicket, their steps silent as they avoid disturbing the ancient oaks. As they walk, Elijah notices a faint hum emanating from one particular tree. He approaches it cautiously and finds an entrance to a hidden chamber within the massive oak. The chamber is cavernous, filled with glowing crystals that cast eerie light upon the walls. In the center stands a pedestal holding another hidden artifact, an ancient relic that seems to hum with energy. Elijah and Elder Xander exchange worried glances while Luna urges them forward. "We must learn more," she insists. They move closer, careful not to disturb the crystals. Suddenly, a stranger emerges from the shadows. "You seek the artifact?" he asks, his voice cold and calculating. "I can help you find it." The young woman steps forward. "Who are you? And what do you want return?" she demands. "I am but a collector of relics," he replies with a sinister smile. "I will guide you to the Grove of Refuge, but you must give me something valuable in exchange." Elijah clenches his fists, ready for a fight, but Elder Xander holds him back. "We need allies, not enemies," he says, his eyes never leaving the stranger. "Let us listen to what he has to offer." Elijah felt the weight of his newfound abilities pressing down on him as he followed Elder Xander and Luna through a narrow path deep within the ancient woods. His heart raced as they approached an ominous-looking massive oak tree, its branches stretching out like gnarled fingers. The air crackled with tension as they entered the heart of the forest. "We are getting closer," Elder Xander said, his voice barely above a whisper as he traced a finger along the bark of the ancient oak. "The Grove of Refuge should be just beyond this tree." Elijah gripped the hilt of his axe, ready for a fight at any moment. He had faced many dangers since being reborn as a tree-dwelling monster, but the thought of facing Silas and his minions sent chills down his spine. The forest itself seemed to sense their fear, the air growing colder and darker around them. Suddenly, Luna's eyes widened, and she pointed towards an opening in the massive oak tree. "There," she whispered urgently, her voice barely audible over the wind. They approached the hidden chamber within the ancient tree, finding a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals. As they entered, the crystals seemed to hum with energy, casting strange colors across the walls of the chamber. In the center stood an ancient artifact that seemed to hum with even more power than the crystals surrounding it. Elijah's heart pounded as he stepped forward, feeling the weight of the decision before him. He could take this artifact and return to his old life, or embrace his new identity as a tree-dwelling monster and lead the rebellion against Silas and his minions. Just then, a stranger emerged from the shadows, introducing himself as Xander's former student. "I see you've found the artifact," he said, his voice dripping with menace. "Hand it over, or I will make your journey back to the human world a nightmare." Elijah felt Luna's hand on his arm, her grip steady and reassuring. He looked at Elder Xander, who nodded slightly, urging him to listen to the stranger's offer. "We can negotiate," Elder Xander said, his voice calm despite the tension in the air. The stranger smiled coldly. "There will be no negotiation. Either you hand over the artifact, or I will take it by force." Elijah felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him as he looked at the artifact of the ancients, the key to their salvation or destruction. He knew that if he handed it over now, there would be no turning back. But he also knew that if they fought, they might not survive. He turned to Elder Xander and Luna, his eyes filled with determination. "We fight," he said firmly, gripping the hilt of his axe tightly. The stranger's smile faltered slightly as Elijah took a step forward, ready for battle. As they faced off against the stranger and his minions, Elijah felt a surge of power coursing through him. He knew that this was just the beginning, but he also knew that he would not back down. No matter what challenges lay ahead, he would protect the Grove of Refuge and its inhabitants with every ounce of strength he possessed. The battle raged on as Elijah and his companions fought valiantly against the stranger and his minions. They were outnumbered but determined to defend their newfound home. As they battled, they discovered that the artifact was not just a key to salvation, but also a powerful weapon in their arsenal. With each swing of his axe, Elijah could feel his strength growing, his powers surging through him as he fought with all his might. He knew that this was just the beginning, and they would face greater challenges ahead. But for now, they had won a small victory in their fight against Silas and his minions. As the dust settled and the last of the stranger's minions lay defeated, Elijah turned to Elder Xander and Luna, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "We did it," he said, his voice filled with relief and exhaustion. "But we cannot rest yet." Elder Xander nodded gravely. "No, my friend, our journey has just begun." As they left the hidden chamber within the ancient tree and continued towards the Grove of Refuge, Eli knew that their true test was still to come. But he also knew that he would face whatever challenges lay ahead with the strength of a tree-dwelling monster and the spirit of a lumberjack. Their journey had been long and treacherous, but they had made it this far, and as they entered the Grove of Refuge, Elijah felt a sense of peace wash over him. He knew that he had found his home among these ancient woods, and he would defend it with every ounce of his being. As they settled into their new lives within the Grove of Refuge, Elijah couldn't help but think of all he had lost and all he had gained since being reborn as a tree-dwelling monster. He knew that his life would never be the same, but he also knew that he would face whatever challenges lay ahead with courage and determination. With Silas and his minions defeated, for now Elijah felt a sense of hope blossoming within him. He knew that they had made a stand against the monstrous apocalypse, and though their victory was not complete, they had taken the first step towards ensuring humanity's survival. As he looked out over the Grove of Refuge, Elijah felt a sense of purpose wash over him. He knew that he would lead the other humans turned monsters in a rebellion against Silas and his minions, forging a new path as the first forest-dwelling hero. The embered arborealist Elijah, Luna, Elder Xander, and the stranger found themselves in the heart of the forest, standing before an ancient oak tree. Its massive trunk bore intricate carvings that seemed to whisper secrets of yore. The air was thick with a sense of anticipation as they approached the tree. Elder Xander's eyes glimmered with wisdom as he traced his fingers over the carvings. "We are getting close," he murmured. There's a hidden chamber within this ancient oak. The young woman stepped forward cautiously, her senses heightened by the magic of their surroundings. She sensed an energy emanating from the tree, a power that felt both terrifying and inviting. I sense something powerful here, she said. Indeed, Elder Xander nodded, his eyes scanning the tree. Let's find the entrance to this chamber. As they searched for the entrance, the stranger watched them from the shadows, a calculating look in his eyes. He knew what lay within that hidden chamber. He had sought it before but never found it alone. Now, with this group of powerful monsters seeking its power, he saw an opportunity to gain their trust and use them for his own purposes. Finally, they discovered a narrow path leading into the heart of the tree. The entrance was concealed by vines and moss, barely visible against the ancient bark. With great care, they made their way inside, following the winding tunnel until it opened up to a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals. "Behold," Elder Xander exclaimed, his voice echoing through the chamber. The hidden heart of this tree. As they marveled at the sight before them, the stranger emerged from the shadows, a knowing smile on his face. "I see you've found it," he said, "and I see you have the power to wield its might." Elijah tensed, his senses alert. He knew there was something off about this stranger, and he would not let his guard down. "What do you want from us?" he demanded. "I can guide you to Grove of Refuge," the stranger replied, "in exchange for your artifact." Luna stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. "No deal," she said firmly. "We will not give up our weapon to a stranger." The stranger chuckled darkly, revealing fangs as he snarled. "Then you leave me no choice but to take it by force." A battle erupted within the hidden chamber, the air filled with the sound of growls and roars. Elijah fought alongside Luna and Elder Xander, using his newfound abilities to defend their artifact. The stranger proved to be a formidable opponent, but together they managed to fend him off. Exhausted but victorious, they emerged from the hidden chamber with the artifact still in their possession. The stranger retreated, promising to return with reinforcements. With their enemy defeated for now, they continued onward, determined to reach the Grove of Refuge and prepare for the upcoming war against Silas and his minions. The journey was fraught with danger, but they pressed on, drawn by the promise of a new life in the heart of the ancient forest. As they traveled deeper into the woods, Elijah couldn't help but feel a sense of belonging and purpose. He knew that he had found his home among these trees, and he would fight to protect it with every fiber of his being. The journey through the dense thicket of ancient trees was arduous, their path illuminated by the soft glow of the crystals that lined the narrow path. The air felt heavy with tension as they neared the heart of the forest. Elijah's senses were heightened. He could feel the presence of other monsters lurking nearby, sensing their own danger. "We must be cautious," Luna warned, her voice barely above a whisper. "Silas is growing stronger every day. If we are not careful, we may not make it to the Grove of Refuge." The group paused at the crossroads, exchanging worried glances as they listened for any signs of movement. Suddenly, a strange rustling sound came from behind them. Turning around, they saw a figure emerge from the underbrush, a stranger with eyes that seemed to pierce their souls. "Who are you?" Elder Xander demanded, his voice shaking slightly. "What do you want with us?" The stranger hesitated for a moment before responding. "I know what you seek," he said. "I have been watching you, and I have something that will help you." He reached into the folds of his cloak and produced the artifact they had been searching for, the artifact of the ancients. Elijah's heart raced as he stared at the ancient relic, feeling its power pulsating in his hands. "This is the key to our salvation," Luna whispered, but Elder Xander looked wary. "We cannot trust this stranger," he said. "He may be a spy for Silas." "Perhaps," Elijah conceded, "but we cannot deny that this artifact could change the tide of the war." "We must consider our options carefully." The group debated for what seemed like hours, their voices growing louder as they argued over whether to take the risk or continue on without the artifact. In the end, Elijah made the decision for them. "We will trust this stranger," he declared. If he is a spy, then we will deal with him when we reach the grove of refuge. But if he truly wishes to help us, then perhaps together we can stand against Silas and his minions. The Embered Arborealist, Episode 23. The living oak's shadowed path. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the dense thicket of ancient trees. As they travelled deeper into the heart of the forest, air grew colder, and a strange tension settled over them all. They knew that danger lurked nearby, waiting for its opportunity to strike. Suddenly, the young woman stopped in her tracks. Her eyes widened as she pointed towards an ominous-looking massive oak tree ahead. "There, I see it." "See what?" Elijah asked, straining his ears for any signs of danger. The stranger's gaze remained fixed on the ancient oak tree, a narrow path. "It leads to the hidden chamber within this ancient oak where the artifact is kept." Elijah glanced at Luna and Elder Xander, who nodded reluctantly. They had no choice but to trust in the young woman's knowledge of the forest and follow her guidance. The group cautiously made their way towards the massive oak tree, keeping their senses alert for any signs of danger. As they approached, they noticed that the massive oak tree seemed almost alive, its branches swaying gently as if breathing. Shivers ran down Elijah's spine as he felt an eerie presence emanating from the ancient wood. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them from within the tree. "We must be careful," Luna whispered, her eyes never leaving the tree. "This artifact is powerful and sought after by many." "I know," Elijah replied, keeping his voice low. "But we have no other choice if we want to stop Silas and his minions." They continued onward, following the narrow path that wound its way through the dense thicket of ancient trees, until they reached the base of the massive oak tree. The stranger pointed towards a small, barely visible opening in the trunk. "This is it." Elijah studied the entrance carefully, noticing a faint glow emanating from within. He steeled himself for what lay ahead and began to climb the massive oak tree, his limbs transforming into branches as he ascended higher. The others followed suit, their movements slow but steady as they made their way upwards towards the hidden chamber within the ancient tree. As they reached the cavernous space filled with glowing crystals, they found themselves surrounded by walls of smooth wood and strange symbols carved into the walls. Elijah's heart raced as he looked around, realizing that they had entered a sacred place, one that would not easily be left unscathed. "Stay close," Luna whispered, her eyes never leaving the entrance. "This chamber is guarded by powerful spirits." Elijah nodded, his senses on high alert as he scanned the cavernous space for any signs of danger. The air grew thick with anticipation as they waited for whatever lay ahead to reveal itself. Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the chamber, causing them all to freeze in terror. "Silas," Elijah muttered under his breath. "He's here." The group braced themselves as Silas and his minions stepped out from the shadows, their eyes glowing with malice. The air grew thick with tension as the two sides faced off, each waiting for the other to make a move. Elijah knew that this was it, the battle they had been preparing for since their transformation into monsters. As Silas advanced towards them, Elijah felt a surge of determination coursing through his veins. He would not let Silas take the artifact and bring about the monstrous apocalypse. With Luna and Elder Xander by his side, they stood their ground against the ruthless alpha monster and his minions, ready to fight for their survival and the fate of humanity. The battle that followed was fierce and brutal, each side determined not to back down. Elijah used every ounce of his strength and newfound abilities to hold off Silas, while Luna and Elder Xander fought alongside him, their combined efforts barely holding the line against Silas' relentless onslaught. Just when all seemed lost, the young woman emerged from the shadows with the artifact of the ancients in hand. "Take it," she shouted, tossing the artifact towards Elijah as she fended off Silas' minions. Elijah caught the artifact just as a powerful blast erupted from it, sending Silas and his minions flying backwards. The group seized the opportunity to retreat, knowing that they had won this battle but not the war against Silas. As they made their way back through the narrow path towards the safety of the dense thicket, Elijah couldn't help but feel a sense of victory. They had secured the artifact and held off Silas for the time being, but he knew that this was far from over. The monstrous apocalypse still loomed on the horizon, and they would have to be prepared for whatever came next. The group emerged from the ancient woods, exhausted but alive. As they looked towards the setting sun, they couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. They had fought hard and come out on top, for now, but they knew that their true battle was yet to come, and they would need every ounce of strength and determination to see it through. Elijah turned to his companions, his eyes filled with resolve. "We've won this round, but Silas will be back. We must prepare for war." Luna nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "And we will be ready," she said quietly. "Together, we can stand against the monstrous apocalypse and protect humanity." Elijah felt a surge of pride swell within him as he looked at his newfound friends, the humans turned monsters who had become his family in this strange, dangerous world. Together, they would face whatever came their way, united in their mission to save humanity from the impending darkness. As night fell over the ancient woods, Elijah knew that their journey was far from over, but he also knew that with determination and courage, they could overcome anything. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows throughout the ancient forest. The group tread cautiously along a narrow path, guided by Luna's wisdom. As they approached an ominous-looking massive oak tree, Elijah could feel his heart racing. They heard whispers of a hidden chamber within its heart that contained the key to their salvation or destruction. "We must be prepared for what lies ahead," Luna warned, her voice steady despite the tension in her eyes. "This artifact has great power, and many will want it." They reached the ancient oak tree, its gnarled roots stretching out like fingers grasping at the earth. A hidden chamber was revealed within this ancient oak, a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals that seemed to hum with energy. The group approached, their hearts pounding anticipation. As they entered the chamber, they were ambushed by Silas and his minions. Elijah's eyes widened as he saw the alpha monster standing before him, a cruel smile playing on his lips. With swift movements, he activated the artifact, unleashing an energy wave that sent the attackers reeling. The battle was fierce, with Silas using every trick in the book to gain control of the artifact. Elijah fought alongside Luna Xander and the others, their determination fueled by the knowledge that this artifact could end the monstrous apocalypse they faced. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they emerged victorious, but not without losses. Silas retreated, vowing to return with a larger force. The group gathered around Elijah as he held the ancient artifact, their eyes filled with hope and fear. "We have won this battle," Luna said, her voice heavy with emotion. "But we must prepare for the war that is yet to come." As they left the hidden chamber, a young woman approached them from the shadows. Her eyes were filled with sorrow, and she held out a small, delicate artifact. "This was given to me by my mother," she explained. She said it would help in the coming battle against Silas. Elijah accepted the artifact gratefully, his heart swelling with gratitude. They continued on their journey, now armed with 2 powerful relics and a new ally. As they traveled deeper into the forest, Elijah couldn't shake off the feeling that something was still missing, a piece of the puzzle that would help them win this war once and for all. In the days that followed, the group encountered another hidden artifact deep within the forest. This ancient relic seemed to resonate with the artifact of the ancients in Elijah's possession. With each new discovery, their resolve grew stronger, and they felt more confident in their ability to stand against Silas and his minions. One night, as they rested at a crossroads deep within the heart of the forest, a stranger approached them, his intentions unclear. He claimed to have information about the artifact and the monstrous apocalypse, but Elijah could sense something off about him. "I'll take you to the one who knows everything," he offered, his voice dripping with false sincerity. "But first I need the artifact." Elijah hesitated, sensing danger in this stranger's words. Luna stepped forward, her eyes narrowed. "We will not give up our weapon so easily," she said, her tone cold and unyielding. The stranger chuckled, revealing a dagger at his side. "Fine, then I'll take it by force." As the stranger lunged at Elijah, the group sprang into action, defending their leader and the artifact. The battle was intense, with the stranger proving to be a formidable opponent. In the end, they managed to subdue him, but not without sustaining injuries. Exhausted and battered, they continued on their journey, their resolve stronger than ever. They reached the Grove of Refuge, a dense thicket of ancient trees where other humans-turned-monsters lived in harmony. Here, they found the answers to some of their questions about their transformation and discovered that the artifact of the ancients was not just a weapon, but also a key to reversing their transformations if they chose to do so. As Elijah held the artifact, he felt torn between his desire to return to humanity and his newfound friendships with Luna, Xander, and the others. He knew that choosing to reverse his transformation would mean giving up everything he had built in this arboreal world, but it also offered a chance at salvation for all of humanity. The Embered Arborealist, INT, hidden chamber within ancient oak tree, Day. The group entered the cavernous chamber filled with glowing crystals. Luna's eyes widened at the sight of the symbols etched into the walls. Elijah felt a sudden surge of energy, his senses heightening as he stepped further inside. "We have found it," Elder Xander whispered, "the artifact of the ancients." Elijah approached the ancient relic that seemed to hum with energy. The young woman handed him another hidden artifact she had kept concealed. It matched perfectly with the one before them, completing a strange connection between the two objects. "What do we do now?" Zara asked, her eyes never leaving Silas and his minions who lurked just beyond the entrance to the chamber. Suddenly, the stranger emerged from the shadows, brandishing a weapon. "You will not succeed," he sneered. "I shall take that artifact for my own." The group sprang into action, ready to defend their newfound treasure. As they fought off the stranger, Elijah felt a strange pull towards him. In his mind's eye, he saw visions of a monstrous apocalypse and the destruction it would bring upon the world. "No," Elijah shouted, his voice echoing through the chamber as he battled against the stranger. "We will not let that happen." With the help of Luna and Zara, they managed to overpower the stranger, banishing him back into the forest. Exhausted, they sat down around the ancient artifact, taking a moment to catch their breaths. "What was that about?" Elijah asked Luna, who seemed deep in thought. "Who is this stranger?" "He is an emissary of Silas," she replied. "He seeks the artifact to bring about the monstrous apocalypse." Elijah felt a newfound determination welling up inside him. "Then we will have to prepare for war," he declared. "We cannot let that happen." The group nodded, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With their combined efforts, they would protect the artifact and save the world from destruction. The monstrous apocalypse was coming, but they were not alone in their fight. Together, they could overcome any obstacle and forge a new path for humanity-turned-monsters. As twilight settled upon the ancient forest, a cold wind swept through the dense thicket of towering oak trees. The air crackled with energy as Elijah and his companions rested, their hearts heavy with anticipation and fear. The young woman approached Elijah, her eyes reflecting an unspoken urgency. "Elijah," she whispered, handing him a small, delicate artifact that seemed to hum with energy. "Take this. It may aid us in our fight against Silas." Luna looked on, her aged eyes filled with wisdom and sadness. "You must be careful, Elijah," she warned. "This artifact is powerful, but it comes at a cost." Elijah hesitated, his human instincts clashing with his newfound monster nature. He could feel the power coursing through the artifact, sense its potential to change their fate, but would he be able to control it? Meanwhile, Silas had been watching from the shadows, observing Elijah and his group's movements. A cruel smile played upon his lips as he prepared for his strike. His minions gathered around him, their eyes filled with anticipation. "Tonight," he growled, "we seize that artifact and end this rebellion." Deep within the heart of the forest, a crossroads loomed before them. The ancient oak tree stood tall and ominous, its branches reaching out like twisted fingers towards the sky. Elijah could feel something strange emanating from it, a connection to the hidden chamber they had discovered earlier. "We go here." Zara declared, her fierce determination unwavering. The artifacts may be connected, and we need to find out what that means. As they approached the ancient oak tree, they were suddenly confronted by a stranger cloaked in shadows. He stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with malice. "You seek the power of the artifact of the ancients?" he asked, his voice dripping with menace. "It will not be that easy." Elijah bristled at the intrusion, his monster instincts surging to the forefront. "Back off," he snarled, baring his teeth in a warning. The stranger laughed coldly. "I am an emissary of Silas," he revealed. "He desires that artifact for his own twisted purposes." Zara stepped forward, her sword at the ready. "We won't let you take it," she growled. The battle was fierce and brutal, but Elijah and his companions managed to fend off the stranger, banishing him away with a combined effort. As they caught their breath, they entered the hidden chamber within the massive oak tree, finding an ancient artifact that resonated with the one they already possessed. Luna approached the artifact cautiously, her eyes filled with awe and fear. "This is the key to our salvation or destruction," she whispered. "We must be careful how we wield its power." Elijah looked at Luna, his resolve hardening. He knew what he had to do. "I won't let Silas bring about the monstrous apocalypse," he declared. "We will prepare for war and defend this world from destruction." Then, the embered arborealist Elijah stood at the edge of a dense thicket of ancient trees, his heart pounding in sync with the rhythmic whispers of the wind. Luna, Zara, and the young woman had gathered around him, their eyes filled with determination. "We cannot delay any longer," Elijah said, his voice echoing through the forest. They ventured deeper into the ancient woods, following a narrow path that seemed to weave its way between towering oaks and colossal tree trunks. The air grew thicker with magic as they approached an ominous-looking massive oak tree at the heart of the forest. "This is it," Luna whispered, her voice barely audible over the creaking branches above them. The ancient oak where the artifact of the ancients was hidden. As they reached the base of the massive tree, the young woman produced a small, delicate artifact from within her robes. "I found this deep within the forest," she said softly. "It may help us navigate the chamber within the ancient oak." The group approached the tree, the young woman leading them to a hidden entrance at its base. With a collective breath, they stepped into the chamber, their eyes adjusting to the dim light that emanated from glowing crystals lining the walls. In the center of the cavernous space lay another hidden artifact, shimmering with energy. Silas stood before it, his eyes locked onto the group as they entered the room. His minions surrounded him, their growls echoing through the chamber. "You will not take the artifact," Elijah declared, his voice echoing off the walls as he stepped forward. "We have come to protect our home," Silas laughed, revealing a jagged scar across his face. "Your home belongs to me, lumberjack," he sneered. "The forest will be mine." A fierce battle ensued, as the group fought against Silas and his minions for control of the artifact. The chamber shook with each blow struck, but Elijah refused to back down. He channeled the essence of the forest itself, drawing upon his newfound powers in a desperate bid to defend the artifact. As the battle raged on, Luna and Zara fought alongside Elijah, their combined strength keeping Silas at bay. The young woman watched from the sidelines, her small artifact glowing brighter with each passing moment. Finally, they managed to banish Silas and his minions, collapsing onto the ground as exhaustion washed over them. Elijah reached out to claim the artifact, but the young woman stopped him. "I cannot let you take it," she said, her voice trembling with fear. "It may be our key to salvation, but also to destruction." Elijah looked at the artifact, his eyes filled with uncertainty. He thought of Luna's warning and knew that he must make a choice: embrace his new identity as a tree-dwelling monster or return to humanity. As twilight fell on the ancient forest, he decided to stand by those who had become his family and lead them in a rebellion against Silas and the impending monstrous apocalypse. The sun's rays barely managed to filter through the dense canopy, casting a dim light upon the exhausted group as they gathered around the ancient oak tree. Elijah leaned against the massive trunk, catching his breath while Luna tended to the wounded. A sense of foreboding hung in the air, and Elijah felt a tightness in his chest, knowing that their quest for the artifact had led them straight into a confrontation with Silas and his minions. "We must find another way," Luna whispered, her eyes filled with worry. "If we engage Silas here, there will be no turning back." Elijah looked towards the young woman who still clutched the small, delicate artifact in her trembling hands. She stared at it, her features twisted in determination and fear. "We cannot abandon our quest," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "The fate of humanity depends on it." Suddenly, a sudden rustling from within the dense thicket caught their attention. All eyes turned towards the sound as they saw a stranger emerge from the foliage. His eyes were cold and calculating, and Elijah knew he was not alone. Before anyone could react, the stranger lunged at the young woman, snatching the artifact from her grasp. "No!" Elijah roared, springing to his feet as Silas and his minions burst from their hiding places, surrounding them. The battle began in earnest, with Elijah and Luna fighting alongside Zara against the onslaught of monstrous beings. The stranger proved a formidable opponent, wielding an ancient relic that seemed to hum with energy as he struck at them relentlessly. Despite their best efforts, they found themselves outnumbered and outmatched. Elijah felt his humanity slipping away as anger surged through him, fueling his transformation into a tree-dwelling monster even further. But the young woman refused to give up. With her last ounce of strength, she managed to break free from Silas' grip and snatch the artifact back. "This is our only hope," she yelled, holding the artifact high above her head. "We will not let it fall into the wrong hands." For a moment, time seemed to stand still as they stared each other down. Then, with a roar that echoed through the forest, Elijah charged at Silas, his newfound strength and power surging within him. The battle raged on, but it was clear that this time they would not back down. As they fought, Zara noticed something peculiar about the stranger. He seemed to be transforming as well, his body becoming twisted and monstrous before their eyes. She quickly realized that the artifact was causing unintended side effects, and they must find a way to stop it from falling into Silas' hands. The fight reached a climax as Elijah locked eyes with Silas. The two of them locked in an intense standoff. Luna and Zara fought alongside him, their determination unwavering, but even as they fought valiantly, it seemed that their odds were still stacked against them. But then something unexpected happened. The young woman approached the stranger, holding out her hands to him. "Please," she begged, her voice trembling with fear and desperation. "Let us work together for a better future, one where humanity and monsters can coexist peacefully." For a moment, the stranger hesitated, his eyes flickering between the artifact, the young woman, and Elijah. Then, to everyone's surprise, he handed over the artifact. "I see your resolve," he said gruffly. "We will need all the allies we can get in the days ahead." With a final effort, they managed to defeat Silas and his minions, their victory bittersweet as they knew that the monstrous apocalypse was still looming on the horizon. But for now, they had gained an ally, and perhaps a glimmer of hope in this arboreal world filled with danger and ancient secrets. As they rested within the grove of refuge, the young woman looked at Elijah, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice barely above a whisper. "I owe you my life." Elijah smiled wearily, feeling a strange warmth in his chest as he realized that maybe, just maybe, they were beginning to find their way through this forest of challenges and uncertainty. And perhaps, with the artifact now in their possession, they had a chance at turning the tide against the monstrous apocalypse. The embered arborealist, the grove was peaceful, its ancient trees whispering secrets as the wind rustled through their leaves. The group had found solace here after their harrowing battle against Silas and his minions. Luna, with her wisdom and insight, led them to this place, a hidden sanctuary for humans transformed into monsters like Elijah. Elijah's heart swelled as he looked around at the familiar faces, Zara, Elder Xander, and others who had been through so much together. He felt an unexpected sense of belonging amidst the ancient woods. Yet, his thoughts remained heavy with the knowledge that their time in the grove was short. The monstrous apocalypse was still coming, and they needed to prepare for the inevitable battle ahead. Luna called everyone together around a crackling fire. Her voice, both stern and soothing, echoed through the grove as she spoke of the artifact they had recovered from the stranger. This ancient relic holds the power to restore our humanity or bring about our destruction. We must decide wisely. A hush fell upon the group as Elijah considered his options. He knew he could never give up his newfound abilities and the friendships he'd forged among the monsters. Yet the idea of returning to a life without them was not entirely unappealing. "We cannot make this decision lightly," Elijah said, breaking the silence. "I choose to embrace who I am now, a tree-dwelling monster, ready to lead my kind into battle against Silas and his minions." A murmur of approval rippled through the group. Luna smiled warmly at him, her eyes gleaming with pride. Elder Xander nodded in agreement, but there was sadness in his gaze as he looked upon Elijah, knowing that their friendship would likely change when he chose to return to a human life. As the night wore on, whispers of Silas and his minions grew louder, echoing through the forest. The group steeled themselves for battle, but they knew they couldn't stay here forever. A plan was needed to take the fight to Silas and end this monstrous apocalypse once and for all. The following morning, Elijah led his group toward a narrow path hidden deep within the heart of the forest. He could sense danger lurking ahead, but he refused to let fear control him. With Luna and Zara by his side, he pushed on, determined to protect those who had become his family among the monsters. As they ventured deeper into the ancient woods, the path narrowed until it became a barely discernible crevice between towering trees. Elijah's heart raced as he realized that this was no ordinary forest trail. It led to something far more significant than they could have ever imagined. A massive oak tree loomed before them, its roots twisting and tangling like the tendrils of some ancient, slumbering beast. The air grew heavy with anticipation as they approached the ominous-looking tree. Elijah felt a strange connection to it, a pull that seemed to resonate within his very essence. As they reached the base of the ancient oak, Luna pointed toward an opening in its massive trunk. "Here lies our destiny," she said softly. Elijah steeled himself as he led his group into the hidden chamber within the massive oak. The cavernous space was filled with glowing crystals that seemed to hum with energy. In the center of the room stood a pedestal, upon which lay another artifact, this one smaller and more delicate than the first. Elijah's eyes widened as he recognized it from the visions Luna had shown him in their dreams. The other hidden artifact they needed to complete their weapon against Silas and his minions. With a deep breath, he stepped forward, reaching out to claim the artifact. But just as he touched it, a sudden rumble shook the chamber, and the walls began to close in on them. Desperate to escape, they sprinted back toward the opening, their hearts pounding in their chests as the ancient oak tree threatened to crush them beneath its roots. With Luna's guidance, Elijah managed to guide them through the twists and turns of the narrow path, his senses heightened by his newfound abilities as a tree-dwelling monster. They emerged from the forest, battered but unbroken, into the dense thicket where they had first found refuge. The grove seemed distant now, a fading memory as they prepared for the final battle against Silas and his minions. Elijah felt a strange sense of peace wash over him. He was ready to embrace his destiny as the forest's first hero and protect those who had become his family among the monsters. In the heart of the forest, the group stood at the edge of a dense thicket of ancient trees, their leaves whispering secrets in the wind. The massive oak tree before them seemed ominous and foreboding, its branches twisted like gnarled fingers reaching towards the sky. Elijah, Luna, Xander, and Zara shared glances, each feeling the weight of anticipation. "The chamber lies within that ancient oak," Luna said, pointing at the towering tree. "We must tread carefully." Stepping forward, they entered the thicket, following a narrow path that twisted through the trees like an arterial vein pumping life into the heart of the forest. The air grew heavy with anticipation as the path led them towards their destination. "Remember," Elijah said, his voice steady, "we are united in this struggle." Suddenly, a rustling sound echoed through the trees, followed by the distinct growls of Silas and his minions. The group froze, eyes wide with fear. A shadow fell over them as the ominous-looking massive oak tree loomed above, blocking out the sunlight. "They've found us," Zara whispered, her voice tinged with anger. "We must prepare for battle." Silas and his minions burst forth from the underbrush, snarling and baring their teeth. Elijah stepped forward, his eyes focused on Silas as he raised his hand, summoning the ancient power that flowed within him. The ground shook beneath them as energy surged through the air, crackling like lightning. The battle began, each side fighting with fierce determination. Luna and Xander wove in and out of combat, using their combined wisdom and strength to hold back Silas' minions while Elijah faced off against his ancient enemy. Zara fought with unmatched skill, her blade flashing through the air as she took down monster after monster. In the midst of battle, a stranger appeared, snatching the artifact from Xander's grasp and disappearing into the forest. Luna cried out in dismay, her eyes following the stranger as he vanished into the trees. "After him," Elijah bellowed, his voice echoing through the clearing as he charged after the stranger. The others followed close behind, determined to recover the artifact and defeat Silas once and for all. As they pursued the stranger, they found themselves in a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals. He stood atop an ancient oak tree, the artifact held high above his head. Elijah felt a surge of anger coursing through him as he launched himself towards the stranger, determined to reclaim their weapon and end this conflict once and for all. The battle raged on, each side fighting with everything they had. In the heart of the struggle, Elijah found himself face to face with Silas, who grinned cruelly before launching a devastating attack. Elijah fought back with every ounce of strength he possessed, his eyes filled with determination as he refused to give in to fear or despair. In the end, they emerged victorious, their spirits united as one against the darkness that had threatened their home for so long. With the artifact restored and Silas defeated, they returned to the Grove of Refuge, ready to face whatever challenges the future held. As twilight descended upon the forest, Elijah looked out over his companions, his heart swelling with pride and gratitude. Together, they had faced insurmountable odds and emerged victorious. They were no longer merely lumberjacks or monsters. They were a family united in their fight against the darkness that threatened their world. "We did it," Elijah said softly, his voice filled with emotion. "We've saved our home." Together they stood at the edge of the grove, watching as the sun set behind the ancient trees, casting long shadows across the forest floor. They had faced adversity and emerged stronger for it, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As darkness fell, they turned towards each other, their hearts filled with hope and determination. Together, they would stand against the monstrous apocalypse, united in their fight for survival and redemption. And in that moment, they knew that no matter what obstacles lay before them, they would face them together as one. The embered arborealis, the forest pulsed with anticipation as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting eerie shadows across the ancient woods. Elijah stood tall among his companions, his heart heavy with worry. "We must be vigilant," he warned them. "Silas will not rest until he has the artifact of the ancients." Luna nodded solemnly, her face etched with concern. "I'll keep watch tonight, Elijah. You should get some rest." Elijah hesitated, but Luna's insistence was firm. He reluctantly agreed and made his way to a secluded spot near the grove, settling beneath an ancient oak tree. The forest seemed quieter than usual, and he could feel the tension in the air. His senses were heightened as a result of his transformation, making it easier for him to pick up on subtle changes in the environment. As he drifted off to sleep, he felt a presence nearby. He jolted awake, instinctively reaching for the axe that hung at his side. A stranger stepped out from behind the tree, revealing himself with a smirk. "I've been looking forward to meeting you," the stranger said ominously. "I hear you have an artifact of immense power." Elijah rose to his feet, clutching the axe tightly. "You won't get your hands on it," he growled. The stranger laughed, but his eyes betrayed a glint of fear. "Perhaps not, but I shall enjoy the chase." With a swift movement, the stranger lunged at Elijah, who parried the attack with ease. The two exchanged blows, neither gaining the upper hand. Elijah's years as a lumberjack gave him an edge in strength and stamina. But the stranger was agile and cunning. As they fought, Luna and the others arrived, alerted by the commotion. They joined the fray, their combined might overpowering the stranger. With a final blow from Zara's sharp claws, the stranger crumpled to the ground. Exhausted and battered, Elijah knelt beside the defeated stranger, panting heavily. Luna approached cautiously, taking hold of the artifact the stranger had been clutching. "We must return this to the Grove of Refuge," she said, "and prepare for what comes next." Elijah nodded, his heart heavy with the knowledge that their troubles were far from over. Silas would not stop until he claimed the artifact and brought about the monstrous apocalypse. With the stranger defeated, they had won a small victory, but there was much more at stake than just one artifact. As they made their way back to the grove, Elijah couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The forest seemed eerily silent, and he could sense an ominous presence lurking nearby. "What is it?" Luna asked, noticing his unease. Elijah shook his head, trying to brush off the sensation. "I don't know," he replied, "but we must remain vigilant." They continued on in silence, each step bringing them closer to the heart of the forest and the unknown dangers that awaited them. As they entered the dense thicket, Elijah felt his senses heighten once more. A narrow path appeared before them, leading deeper into the woods. "This way," Luna said, her voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. "The chamber is hidden deep within this ancient oak tree." Elijah followed her lead, his heart pounding in his chest. He could feel the weight of their mission pressing down on him, but he refused to give in to fear. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead and emerge stronger for it. As they approached the massive oak tree, Elijah felt a surge of energy coursing through him. It was as if the forest itself was urging them forward, whispering secrets into his mind. He paused, listening intently, and then turned to Luna. "The chamber is hidden within this ancient oak," he said, pointing at the massive tree before them. "I sense it's important." Luna nodded, a determined look in her eyes. "Then we must find it." Together, they began to search for the hidden chamber, their senses straining as they delved deeper into the heart of the forest. As they explored the ancient oak tree, they stumbled upon a narrow path that led them to a hidden chamber within the massive oak. The cavernous space was filled with glowing crystals, casting an eerie light on the walls and floor. "This is it," Luna whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the crystals. "The heart of the forest." Elijah stepped forward, his heart pounding in anticipation. He could feel the power of the chamber resonating within him, filling him with a sense of purpose and resolve. They had come this far, and they would not rest until they had unlocked the secrets of the ancient artifact that lay before them. As they explored the chamber, they discovered another hidden artifact nestled among the glowing crystals. Elijah reached out to touch it, his senses tingling with anticipation. This was their weapon against Silas and his minions, the key to their salvation or destruction. Together, they decided that they would need to return to the Grove of Refuge and prepare for the upcoming battle against Silas and his minions. With the artifact in hand, they made their way back through the narrow path, determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead. As they emerged from the heart of the forest, the sun was setting, casting a warm glow over the grove. Elijah could feel the tension in the air as his companions gathered around him, their eyes filled with determination. They had come this far, and together they would stand against Silas and his minions. "We must be ready," Elijah said, his voice echoing through the grove. "Silas will not stop until he claims the artifact of the ancients and brings about the monstrous apocalypse." Luna nodded solemnly, her eyes filled with resolve. "We will face him together," she said, her voice steady and strong. "We will protect our home and our people." As twilight fell over the grove, Elijah felt a sense of peace wash over him. He knew that they faced an uphill battle against Silas and his minions, but he also knew that they were not alone. Together, they would stand as one, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With newfound determination, they prepared for the battles to come, knowing that their future hung in the balance. They had come this far, and they would not rest until they had secured their place as the heroes of the arboreal realm. As darkness descended upon the grove, Elijah stood tall among his companions, his heart filled with hope and determination. Together they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their mission to protect their home and their people. The monstrous apocalypse may be looming, but they would not go down without a fight. And so, as the stars shone brightly overhead, Elijah and his companions stood ready, preparing to defend their world against all odds. They were the first tree-dwelling heroes, and they would not rest until they had secured the future of their people and their home. The end came swiftly, with a fierce battle that tested the mettle of both sides. In the end, Elijah and his companions emerged victorious, their determination unwavering. Silas and his minions lay defeated before them, their plans for domination thwarted. As they surveyed the aftermath of the battle, Elijah felt a sense of pride swell within him. They had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious, proving that even in the darkest times, hope could prevail. Together, they had forged a new path as heroes of the arboreal realm, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. In the days that followed, Elijah and his companions worked tirelessly to rebuild their home and restore order to the forest. They shared stories of their battles with Silas and his minions, each tale growing in legend as they passed from mouth to mouth. And though the monstrous apocalypse had been averted, they knew that they would always be on guard against new threats. But for now, they could rest easy, knowing that they had fought valiantly and emerged victorious. They were the first tree-dwelling heroes of the arboreal realm, and their legacy would live on long after they were gone. And as twilight fell over the grove once more, Elijah stood tall among his companions, his heart filled with pride and determination. Together, they had faced impossible odds and emerged victorious, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The forest whispered its secrets to them as they slept that night, promising new adventures and battles to come. But for now, they could rest easy, knowing that they had done their part in protecting their home and their people. And as the stars shone brightly overhead, they knew that their legend would live on, inspiring generations to come. And so, as the dawn broke over the grove, Elijah and his companions stood ready, united in their mission to protect their world against all odds. The monstrous apocalypse may have been averted, but they knew that they would always be on guard against new threats. Together, they would forge a new path as heroes of the arboreal realm, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The sun began its slow descent beneath the dense canopy of the ancient forest, casting shadows across a hidden chamber within the massive oak tree. The artifact lay at the center of the cavernous space, filled with glowing crystals. It hummed softly, a beacon in the gathering gloom. Elijah's eyes flickered towards Luna, who stood watch beside him. "The darkness is coming," she murmured, her voice barely audible above the rustling leaves. Zara approached the artifact cautiously, her gaze fixed on it with a mixture of reverence and fear. "It's so beautiful," she whispered, reaching out to touch the ancient relic. The crystals pulsed in response, bathing the chamber in a soft light that seemed to dance across her features. Suddenly, the forest erupted in a cacophony of snarls and growls as Silas and his minions burst into the clearing, their eyes burning with malice. The air crackled with tension as both sides stared each other down, the artifact at the heart of the conflict. Elijah stepped forward, standing tall before the grove's leader. "This ends now," he declared, his voice echoing through the ancient woods. Silas sneered, baring his fangs. "You think you can stand against me?" Before Elijah could respond, a figure materialized from the shadows, the stranger who had pursued them earlier. He lunged towards the artifact, reaching for it with a desperate intensity that belied his previous calm demeanor. Zara reacted instinctively, her claws flashing as she attacked the intruder. The forest erupted into chaos as Elijah and Luna fought to protect their allies while fending off Silas' minions. The battle raged on, each side struggling for control of the artifact that seemed to pulsate with an energy all its own. Elijah felt its power coursing through him, fueling his determination as he battled against the enemy forces. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the forest into darkness, Luna's voice rang out above the din. "Elijah, the artifact." "Take it." He hesitated for a moment, torn between protecting his friends and claiming the power offered by the relic, but as Silas lunged towards him once more, he knew what he had to do. Reaching out, he grasped the ancient artifact, feeling its energy surge through him like a tidal wave. The world around them seemed to shimmer, distorting and warping as the artifact's power took hold. Elijah felt his body transform once more, his limbs elongating and branching as he embraced the new form offered by the artifact. With a triumphant roar, he unleashed a burst of energy that sent Silas and his minions reeling back. The stranger stumbled to his knees, clutching his head in pain as the forest seemed to shake around them. The embered arborealist, the sun had set, casting a warm glow over the heart of the forest. The group, weary but triumphant, made their way through the dense thicket towards the hidden sanctuary they called home, the Grove of Refuge. Elijah's transformation had left him weakened, his newfound powers barely keeping the monstrous side at bay. Suddenly, a rustling in the bushes caught their attention. A figure stepped out from the shadows. It was the stranger they encountered earlier, now much weaker and injured. He lunged forward, eyes gleaming with desperation. Zara, ever vigilant, readied her weapon just as Elijah shouted for them to retreat. "We can't fight him here," he said. "We need to lead him back home." The group reluctantly complied, their eyes never leaving the stranger as they navigated the narrow path through the ancient woods. As they approached the massive oak tree at the heart of the forest, the stranger lunged again, only to be met with a swift strike from Zara's blade. She fought with the ferocity and precision of someone who knew all too well what it meant to protect her home. Elijah could feel the monster within him stirring, urging him to give in to his primal instincts and end this threat once and for all. But Luna stepped forward, halting the struggle with a single word: "Enough." Her voice echoed through the forest, causing even Silas' minions to cower at the sound. The stranger, too, seemed to falter under her gaze. He slowly lowered his weapon, surrendering to their will. The group escorted the stranger back to the Grove of Refuge, where he was locked in a secure chamber for questioning. As they sat around the fire that night, Xander shared a story of an ancient prophecy, one who would bear the power of the artifact and lead them in their battle against Silas. Deep within the heart of the forest, Elijah and his companions stood before an ominous-looking massive oak tree. Its ancient bark seemed to weep with secrets and whispered promises. Luna, her eyes twinkling, pointed towards a narrow path that led to the base of the colossal tree. "Follow me," she said. "The artifact is within." Elijah's heart raced as they ventured deeper into the dense thicket of ancient trees. The air was heavy with tension. He could sense the weight of their mission pressing down upon them like a vice. As they approached the massive oak tree, Luna led them to a hidden chamber within its trunk. "Be careful," she warned. "The artifact is guarded by powerful wards." Elijah's senses were heightened, feeling the ancient magic that surrounded the chamber. It was like stepping into another world entirely, a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals. In the center of the room lay the artifact, an ancient relic humming with energy. "The artifact," breathed Zara, her eyes wide with awe and fear. "This is it." Xander approached the artifact cautiously, his hand outstretched towards the object that could change everything. But as he reached for it, a sudden crash echoed through the chamber. They spun around to see a stranger standing in the entrance, their eyes glowing with an eerie light. "I've been waiting for you," said the stranger coldly. "I won't let anyone else take this artifact." The embered arborealist Elijah and his companions ventured deeper into the dense thicket of ancient trees, Luna's ethereal light flickering gently through the canopy above. The air grew colder as they approached a crossroads in the heart of the forest. An ominous-looking massive oak tree stood at its center, its twisted branches reaching towards the sky. Zara studied the tree, her eyes narrowing as she sensed something powerful lurking within. "Be careful," she warned Elijah and Xander. "This is no ordinary tree," Luna nodded gravely. "An ancient oak, guardian of secrets long forgotten. We must be cautious." The trio approached the massive oak, their hearts pounding with anticipation and fear. The air grew thick with tension as they neared the base of the tree. Elijah could sense magical wards pulsating around its trunk, protecting whatever lay within. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the forest. Those who seek the artifact must first prove themselves worthy. Turning to face the mysterious speaker, they saw a young woman standing behind them, her eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. She stepped forward, revealing a small, delicate artifact in her hand. "This artifact is not for the weak-hearted," she said, holding it aloft. "If you wish to enter this tree, you must first best me in battle." Zara's eyes flashed with determination as she stepped forward. "I accept your challenge," she growled. The young woman nodded and they engaged in combat, their powers clashing violently. Elijah watched the fierce battle, his heart racing as he realized that the fate of humanity rested on this encounter. As Zara fought valiantly against the young woman, Elijah glanced around the crossroads. He noticed a narrow path leading away from the massive oak tree and wondered if it might offer an escape should things go awry. But he knew that they needed the artifact to stand any chance against Silas and his minions. The battle between Zara and the young woman raged on, each blow exchanged with a fierce intensity. Elijah could feel the magic swirling around them as they fought for control of the ancient artifact. At last, Zara landed a powerful strike that sent her opponent sprawling to the ground. The young woman groaned in pain but did not surrender. Elijah rushed forward and helped Zara to her feet. "Are you all right?" he asked breathlessly. Zara nodded, panting slightly. "Let's go," she said, grabbing the artifact from the young woman's grasp. "We have no time to waste." Elijah and his companion stood before the massive oak tree, its gnarled roots stretching out like arms reaching for them. The air was thick with a sense of foreboding as they approached the ancient tree. Within its trunk, they had discovered a hidden chamber guarded by powerful wards. Luna spoke softly, her voice barely audible over the rustling leaves above them. "Be prepared, my friends. The path ahead will be fraught with danger." As they stepped into the narrow passage within the tree's trunk, Elijah felt a strange energy pulsing through him. He could sense the heart of the forest beating beneath his feet, its ancient magic coursing through the ground. Suddenly, the chamber came into view, a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals, their light illuminating the walls adorned with intricate carvings that seemed to depict scenes from long-forgotten history. At the center of the room lay the artifact they sought, an ancient relic that seemed to hum with energy, but they were not alone in this chamber. A young woman stood before it, her eyes fixed on the artifact as if mesmerized by its power. "Leave now," she commanded, her voice cold and unyielding. "This is not a place for intruders." Elijah stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew that he could not let this opportunity pass. "We seek the artifact of the ancients," he declared. "It is our only hope to save our kind from the monstrous apocalypse." The young woman sneered at him. "You are no different than them, monster," she spat. "Leave now or face my wrath." As they prepared for battle, a stranger emerged from the shadows, his eyes glowing with an eerie light. With a swift movement, he lunged towards Zara, aiming to seize the artifact. The two combatants engaged in a fierce dance of attack and defense, their blows echoing through the chamber. Elijah watched as Zara held her own against this unknown enemy, her determination unwavering. In the midst of the chaos, Luna approached the young woman, attempting to reason with her. "We mean no harm," she pleaded. "Join us, and together we can stop the monstrous apocalypse that threatens our world." The young woman hesitated, her eyes flickering between Luna and Zara's battle. With a sigh, she stepped aside, allowing Elijah to claim the artifact. As they left the chamber, Elijah felt a surge of power coursing through him, his newfound abilities growing stronger with each passing moment. He knew that their journey was far from over, but he also understood that he was no longer alone in this struggle against darkness. The embered arborealist Elijah led his companions deeper into the dense thicket of ancient trees. Following the narrow path that Luna had shown him earlier, they passed beneath the massive oak tree, its gnarled roots stretching out like outstretched hands beckoning them forward. The forest seemed alive with the whispers of 1,000 secrets and stories. "This is it," Elijah said, his voice barely audible over the wind rustling through the leaves above them. "The Grove of Refuge. They approached the grove cautiously, their senses heightened by the tension in the air. The ancient trees towered around them like sentinels, their branches twisting and intertwining like fingers grasping for something unseen. In the center stood a massive oak tree, its trunk wide enough to encompass several people. Elijah stepped closer, feeling a strange pull drawing him towards the tree's heart. He glanced at Luna, who nodded solemnly. As they entered the grove, they were met by an elderly man with white hair and a kind face. "Welcome," he said, his voice deep and resonant. "I am Elder Xander. We have been expecting you." Elijah looked around, noticing several other humans-turned monsters standing quietly among the trees. They watched him with a mixture of curiosity and suspicion. He felt a pang of hope at seeing others like himself, but also a growing sense of unease as he realized they were outnumbered. "We've come for the artifact," Elijah said, his voice firm. "We heard it could help us in our fight against Silas and the monstrous apocalypse." Elder Xander nodded. "That is true, but we cannot simply give you the artifact without understanding your intentions. We have lived here for centuries, hidden from the world above. Our existence hangs in the balance, just as yours does." "We will not betray you," Elijah replied. "We seek only to protect our kin and prevent the destruction of this forest." Xander looked thoughtful for a moment before nodding. "Very well. I will show you where it is hidden." They followed Xander through the grove, feeling the eyes of the others upon them as they passed. As they reached the heart of the grove, Elijah gasped at the sight before him, an ancient oak tree with a hollow chamber within its massive trunk. Inside, a glowing crystal pulsed softly, casting eerie light on the walls and floor. "This is it," Xander said, gesturing towards the crystal. "The artifact lies within." Elijah stepped closer, feeling a strange energy radiating from the crystal. He reached out tentatively, his hand brushing against its surface. The crystal pulsed faster, humming with power. Suddenly, the sound of twigs snapping and leaves rustling echoed through the grove. A young woman emerged from behind one of the trees, her eyes fixed on Elijah. She was beautiful, with long flowing hair and a look of determination etched onto her face. "You will not take that artifact," she said, her voice cold and hard. "It is ours." Elijah glanced at Luna, who shook her head slightly. He knew they could not leave without the artifact, but he also sensed danger in this woman. This was a battle they could not afford to lose, not if they were to stand any chance against Silas and his minions. Elijah's group traversed a narrow path within the massive oak tree, guided by Luna. The ancient trunk was alive with energy, resonating like a heartbeat echoing through the forest. Ahead lay a hidden chamber where the artifact of the ancients was believed to reside. The air grew colder as they entered the cavernous space filled with glowing crystals. The light danced upon their faces, casting eerie shadows across the chamber walls. Luna's eyes gleamed with wisdom, her voice barely a whisper as she warned them of the danger ahead. "We must be cautious," she said. "The artifact is powerful and sought after by many, including Silas." Elijah nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility upon his shoulders. He glanced at Zara, who stood tall and proud beside him, her eyes glinting with determination. The young woman remained silent, her gaze fixed on the artifact that lay deep within the chamber. As they approached the heart of the room, a sudden rumble echoed through the cavern. A crack in the floor opened beneath their feet, revealing a hidden passageway leading to another chamber. Elijah exchanged worried glances with Luna and Zara before stepping forward cautiously. They descended into darkness, finding themselves at the mercy of an ominous-looking massive oak tree standing sentinel in the center of the room. A narrow passageway wound its way up into the trunk, leading to a hidden chamber within this ancient oak. The group ventured forth, their hearts pounding with anticipation and fear. As they neared the top, they heard the sound of footsteps and voices echoing through the narrow passage. "We've found them," a deep voice bellowed. "The artifact is ours." Elijah's heart raced as he recognized the voice of Silas and his minions. The battle was upon them. With a growl, Elijah and Zara leapt from the tree, prepared to defend their friends and the artifact at all costs. The young woman, her eyes now ablaze with fury, joined them in combat, her powerful form a testament to the artifact's influence. Together they fought against Silas and his minions, each blow bringing them closer to the artifact hidden within the ancient oak tree. As the battle raged on, Luna stood guard over their fallen comrades, casting healing spells with every spare moment. The air crackled with magic as both sides pushed themselves to their limits. In the end, it was Elijah who claimed the artifact, his newfound powers proving more than a match for Silas and his minions. With the artifact in hand, they retreated, leaving the defeated monsters to lick their wounds. As they emerged from the ancient oak tree, the young woman approached Elijah, her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't mean to betray you," she whispered. "The artifact is our salvation." Elijah looked into her eyes, his heart aching for this stranger who had once been like him. He knew they faced many trials ahead, but he also knew that together they could face anything. As night fell upon the hidden grove of refuge, Elijah and his companions rested, their spirits high after their victory. The artifact lay before them, its power humming softly as it pulsed with energy. The monstrous apocalypse loomed on the horizon, but for now they had won a small battle in their struggle to save their world. The embered arborealist, as Elijah and his group rested within the grove of refuge, Luna shared her wisdom about the forest's secrets. The young woman revealed that she had found another hidden artifact deep within the forest, a small, delicate object given by a mysterious stranger. "I didn't think it was important at first," she said, "but now I worry it might be connected to Silas or the monstrous apocalypse." Elijah considered her words carefully. "We must find this artifact before Silas does. Luna, can you guide us?" Luna nodded gravely. "I will take you there," she said. "But be prepared. It lies deep within the heart of the forest." They ventured deeper into the ancient woods, guided by Luna and the young woman's memories of their encounter with the stranger. The path grew narrower and more treacherous as they approached a crossroads in the heart of the forest. They decided to take the path that led towards an ominous-looking massive oak tree at the center of the crossroads. As they made their way through the dense thicket, Elijah felt a growing unease. "I don't like this," he whispered to Luna. "Something is off." Luna nodded. "We must be cautious," she warned, "for danger lurks in these woods." They continued onward, moving stealthily through the dense undergrowth. They soon reached another chamber within the massive oak tree, hidden behind a wall of vines and moss. Elijah felt a strange energy emanating from the entrance. "This is it," Luna said with determination in her voice. "We must be careful." They crept closer, their eyes glinting with anticipation and wariness. The chamber within the ancient oak tree revealed itself as a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals. In the center of the room stood another hidden artifact. "That's it," the young woman exclaimed, her heart pounding in her chest. "The artifact that the stranger left me." As they moved closer to retrieve the artifact, a sudden rustling sounded from behind them. They turned to see Silas and his minions creeping out of the shadows, their eyes glinting with malice. "I knew you would come for this." Silas snarled, his voice dripping with venom. "But you will not leave here alive." Elijah felt his anger surge, his newfound powers crackling at his fingertips. "You won't take what is rightfully ours without a fight," he growled, ready to defend the artifact and protect his friends. The battle that ensued was fierce and brutal, with Elijah using every ounce of his strength and newfound powers to hold off Silas and his minions. The chamber shook as they fought, glowing crystals shattering around them, filling the air with a blinding light. In the end, it was Zara who dealt the final blow, her fierce determination and battle prowess proving instrumental in their victory. Exhausted but triumphant, Elijah and his group retreated from the chamber, clutching the artifact tightly. As they made their way back to the grove of refuge, Luna spoke softly. "We have won this battle, but the war is far from over," she warned. "Silas will not give up so easily." Elijah nodded grimly, determination burning in his eyes. "We will be ready for him," he vowed. "Together, we will stop the monstrous apocalypse and protect our new home." Elijah stumbled through the dense thicket, weary from days spent traveling deeper into the forest. His heart raced as he heard rustling in the underbrush behind him. It couldn't be anything good. The stranger reappeared, stepping out of the shadows with a wicked grin on his face. "I thought I told you to stay away from me," Elijah snapped, reaching for the small, delicate artifact given to him by the young woman. "You don't have a choice in this matter," the stranger said coldly, lunging at Elijah with surprising speed. They clashed in the heart of the forest, their powers flaring as they traded blows. The fight seemed endless, but Elijah refused to give up. His determination fueled him as he landed a powerful punch that sent the stranger stumbling back. Gasping for breath, Zara rushed forward, ready to deliver the final blow. But she hesitated when she saw the stranger's face contort in agony. "Please," the stranger begged, clutching at his chest. "I won't hurt you. I just want the artifact." Zara frowned, eyeing the artifact warily. "You're not worth our trust," she spat, raising her weapon to strike. But before she could, Elijah intervened. "Enough," he roared, his voice echoing through the ancient woods. "We can't afford to let fear control us." He stepped between Zara and the stranger, extending a hand. "Tell me why you want this artifact so badly, and maybe we can find another solution." The stranger hesitated, weighing their options. After a moment, they nodded. "I was once like you," they confessed, "a human seeking answers in these woods. I discovered the artifact but was betrayed by those who sought it for their own gain. Now, all I want is to use its power to protect myself and others." Elijah studied them carefully, feeling a strange connection to this fellow traveler. He extended his hand once more. "We may not trust you yet," he said, "but together we can find a way to survive the coming apocalypse." That. The embered arborealist, in a dense thicket deep within the ancient woods, Elijah's group cautiously moved through the underbrush, their eyes scanning every direction for any signs of danger. The air was thick with tension as they approached the heart of the forest, where rumors spoke of an ancient oak tree harboring hidden chambers and untold secrets. As they traversed a narrow path, Luna's brow furrowed in concentration, her eyes closed, absorbing the energy of the forest around them. "We must tread lightly," she murmured. "This path is filled with ancient magic." The young woman, who had proven herself more than just an ally, nodded in agreement, her grip tightening on the hilt of the small, delicate artifact given to her by Luna earlier. The others followed closely behind, their hearts racing with anticipation and fear. Suddenly, a rustling in the underbrush made them pause, every muscle tensed. Elijah's senses heightened as he tried to determine if it was friend or foe. The sound grew louder, and soon they found themselves face to face with a stranger, who seemed equally surprised by their encounter. "I mean you no harm," the stranger said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I seek the artifact of the ancients." Before Elijah could respond, Luna stepped forward. "The artifact is not for those who would use it for selfish purposes. We will protect it with our lives. But it's the only hope I have against those who threaten me," the stranger pleaded, his eyes filling with desperation. As the conversation grew heated, a low rumble echoed through the forest, shaking the ground beneath them. The group turned their gaze towards the source of the sound, an ominous-looking massive oak tree at the heart of the forest. "Silas and his minions," Zara hissed, her eyes narrowing as she tightened her grip on her weapon. "They're here." The group knew they had no time to waste. With a fierce determination, Elijah led them towards the tree, the stranger following close behind. Together, they prepared for battle against Silas and his minions, their resolve unshaken as they faced the impending threat. As they entered the hidden chamber within the ancient oak tree, they found themselves in a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals. In the center stood Silas, his eyes gleaming with malice as he looked upon the group with a twisted smile. "I've been waiting for you," he growled, brandishing a wicked blade that seemed to pulse with dark energy. "Now you will all join me or perish." Elijah stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. "We will never bow to you," he declared, his voice steady despite the fear that threatened to overwhelm him. "This forest is our home, and we will defend it with our lives." With a snarl, Silas lunged towards Elijah, his minions following close behind. The battle was fierce, as the group fought tooth and nail to protect their home and each other. As they traded blows with Silas' minions, Zara found herself face to face with the stranger she had met earlier. Their swords clashed again and again, neither willing to back down. In a sudden burst of speed, Zara managed to disarm the stranger, their eyes meeting for a brief moment before she turned her attention back to Silas. The battle raged on, each side determined not to give an inch. As they fought, Elijah noticed that Luna stood off to the side. Her eyes closed as she channeled the energy of the forest into them. He could feel the power flowing through him, strengthening his resolve and giving him newfound strength. In the end, it was Elijah who delivered the final blow, striking Silas with a powerful strike that sent him crashing to the ground. His minions quickly retreated, knowing they had no chance against the group's determination. As the dust settled and their hearts slowed, Elijah looked around at his friends, gratitude welling up within him. Together, they had faced their greatest threat and emerged victorious. They had proven that they would not let the monstrous apocalypse claim them without a fight. Elijah stumbled through the dense thicket, his heart pounding in rhythm with pulsating glow of the crystals that illuminated the cavernous space filled with ancient trees. Luna and Zara trailed closely behind, their eyes trained on the ominous-looking massive oak tree before them. "We're almost there," Luna said, her voice barely a whisper as they approached the ancient oak tree. "The grove of refuge lies within." Elijah could sense the energy emanating from the artifact hidden deep within this ancient forest. The thought of reuniting with his fellow human-turned monsters filled him with hope, but it also brought a new sense of responsibility. They would need to be careful. Silas might have followers among them. As they reached the heart of the forest, Elijah felt an unsettling presence lurking in the shadows. The air grew colder, and he knew they were not alone. Suddenly, a narrow path emerged before them, leading directly towards the ancient oak tree. "Follow me," Luna said, her voice firm as she took the lead. Elijah and Zara followed closely behind, their senses heightened as they cautiously ventured down the narrow passage within the tree's trunk. When they reached the hidden chamber within the massive oak, they were greeted by the sight of the grove of refuge, a hidden sanctuary where other human-turned monsters lived in harmony. But their peace was shattered when Elijah noticed the young woman standing before them, clutching the artifact tightly in her hands. "You should leave now," she warned ominously. "This is our home, and we will not let you take what's ours." The embered arborealist, meanwhile, silent, his minions lurked in the shadows of the dense thicket, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. As tensions rose between Elijah's group and the young woman, a stranger appeared out of nowhere, claiming to have information about the artifact. Unable to trust him, they found themselves questioning their next move as danger came closer. Days passed as Elijah and his group debated whether or not to confront the stranger. Zara, eager for battle, argued that they couldn't trust him, but Luna cautioned patience. They needed to learn more about this mysterious intruder who seemed to know so much about their quest. Meanwhile, deep within the heart of the ancient forest, Silas and his minions waited in ambush. He sensed the presence of the artifact and knew that it was within Elijah's grasp. His plan was simple: take it from them by any means necessary. One evening, as they sat by the campfire, the stranger appeared out of nowhere. Elijah tensed, sensing the danger lurking behind his calm demeanor. The young woman, wary and protective, reached for her weapon. "I bear a message," the stranger said, holding up an ancient scroll. From the ancients themselves. Luna stepped forward, taking the scroll from him. She carefully unrolled it, revealing strange symbols etched into its surface. Her heart raced as she read aloud, her eyes widening in shock. "It speaks of a hidden chamber within an ancient oak tree," she said, "a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals that hold the power to reverse your transformation." The room fell silent as they digested this new information. The young woman's grip on her weapon loosened, her eyes meeting Elijah's. He could see the hope and fear in her expression, knowing that she too wanted a chance at returning to humanity. "We must go," Zara said, breaking the silence. "The artifact is here, and Silas will stop at nothing to claim it." With newfound determination, they set out on their journey through the dense thicket of ancient trees, following Luna's map from the scroll. The forest seemed to grow darker, more ominous as they ventured deeper, sensing the danger that lay ahead. As they approached the ancient oak tree, Elijah could feel his heart racing. He looked back at the young woman, knowing that this battle would change everything. They stood together, ready to face whatever challenges awaited them in the hidden chamber within its massive trunk. Elijah, a former lumberjack reborn as a tree-dwelling monster, struggling to adapt to his new environment while maintaining his humanity. He seeks guidance from Luna and is determined to protect the other humans turned monsters. Luna, an ancient elder who has lived among the monsters for centuries, offering wisdom to Elijah on his journey. She harbors a secret connection to the artifact of the ancients and may hold the key to their salvation or destruction. Silas, a ruthless alpha monster who seeks dominance over the forest, intending to bring about the monstrous apocalypse. His minions are loyal followers who have sworn to serve him in his quest for power. Zara, a fierce warrior with a mysterious past. She is determined to survive the Academy's trials and become the ultimate beast. Her allegiance lies with Elijah, but she struggles with inner conflicts about her true nature and purpose. Elder Xander, an elderly human-turned monster who has lived in harmony with his fellow monsters for centuries. He is a wise advisor to Elijah and leads the Grove of Refuge, where humans turned monsters live peacefully. Young woman, a mysterious stranger who claims to have information about the artifact of the ancients. She initially seems friendly, but reveals her true intentions as she attempts to take the artifact for herself. Stranger, a powerful and cunning monster who seeks to seize the artifact, using deception and manipulation to achieve his goals. He has a hidden agenda that could impact Elijah's mission. The stranger, an enigmatic figure who claims to have knowledge about the ancient artifacts. He is initially hostile but may ultimately prove to be an ally or a foe. Zara, a skilled warrior and member of the Grove of Refuge. She is fiercely loyal to Elijah and is determined to protect her home from those who would seek to destroy it. Her mysterious past hints at a connection to the ancient artifacts and their power. The stranger, an enigmatic figure with unknown motivations who seeks the artifact for his own purposes. He may prove to be an ally or a formidable adversary in Elijah's quest. Episode title: The Battle for the Heart of the Forest. In the heart of the dense thicket, the air crackled with tension as Elijah, Luna, Zara, and a small group of their allies stood before an ancient oak tree. Its massive trunk towered above them, its branches reaching out like gnarled fingers grasping for the sky. The crystals within the hidden chamber glowed brightly, casting eerie shadows across their faces. Silas's minions roared in the distance, drawing nearer with each passing moment. Their eyes burned with malice and determination, reflecting the fire that burned deep within them. Elijah clenched his fists, his human side fighting against the monster inside him as he prepared for battle. "We must act quickly," Luna warned, her voice barely audible over the growling of Silas's minions. "The artifact will be our only hope against the monstrous apocalypse." Zara nodded, drawing her weapon with a swift and practiced motion. She glanced at Elijah, her eyes filled with determination and a hint of fear. "We cannot let them take it," she said firmly. The stranger stepped forward, his eyes locked onto the artifact. "I can help you," he offered, "but I need that artifact." Elijah's grip tightened on his weapon. "It's not for sale," he growled, his human side taking control as the monster within receded. The stranger raised an eyebrow, a sly smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "Very well, then perhaps we can find another way." As Silas's minions closed in on them, Elijah looked around at his allies. Luna, Zara, Elder Xander, and the others stood shoulder to shoulder, ready to defend their home from those who would seek to destroy it. The air crackled with energy as they braced themselves for battle. "Remember," Luna whispered, her voice barely audible above the roar of the approaching monsters. "The artifact may hold the key to our salvation or destruction. Choose wisely." With a cry of defiance, Elijah charged forward, his weapon flashing through the air as he engaged Silas's minions in combat. Zara followed close behind, her own weapon cutting a swath through the ranks of the enemy. The battle was fierce and brutal, each side fighting for control of the artifact hidden deep within the heart of the forest. As the minutes stretched on, the tide of battle seemed to turn against them. Silas himself appeared, his eyes burning with fury as he moved to seize the artifact for himself. Elijah and Zara fought alongside their allies, desperate to protect the artifact from falling into the wrong hands. The stranger watched from the shadows, biding his time until an opportunity presented itself. When it did, he struck, taking advantage of a moment's distraction to snatch the artifact from Elijah's grasp. A cry of outrage rose from Elijah and Zara as they pursued the stranger, determined to reclaim their prize. The chase led them through a narrow passageway within the tree's trunk, twisting and turning until they emerged into a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals. The stranger stood there, the artifact clutched tightly in his hand. Elijah and Zara closed in on him, their weapons raised. "I don't wish to fight," the stranger said, holding up the artifact as if to offer a peace offering. "Together, we can achieve great things." Zara narrowed her eyes, her weapon poised to strike. "You lied to us," she hissed. "What do you truly want?" The stranger's smile turned cold and calculating. "I seek power," he replied. "And with the artifact in my possession, I can have it." Elijah growled, his eyes flashing with rage as he lunged at the stranger. The two locked swords, their weapons clashing together with a deafening crash. Zara moved to flank him, her weapon slicing through the air as she sought to take advantage of his distraction. The battle was fierce and intense, each blow landing with the force of a thunderclap. The stranger proved to be a formidable opponent, his skill matched only by Elijah's own determination. But in the end, it was Zara who delivered the final blow, her weapon striking home with a sickening crunch. The stranger fell to the ground, his eyes wide and uncomprehending as life slowly ebbed away from him. Elijah and Zara stood over him, panting and exhausted. The artifact lay nearby, its gleaming surface marred by blood and scratches. "We must go," Luna called out from the entrance to the cavern, her voice filled with urgency. "Silas's minions are still out there." Elijah and Zara exchanged a glance before turning to leave. As they emerged into the heart of the forest, they knew that their battle was far from over. But they had reclaimed their prize and defeated a powerful adversary. The artifact was now in their possession, and with it, they held the key to their salvation or destruction. The monstrous apocalypse still loomed on the horizon, but Elijah and his allies were determined to face it head-on. Together, they would forge a new path through the ancient woods, one that led not to destruction, but to hope and redemption. And as they journeyed deeper into the heart of the forest, they knew that they had made an enemy in the form of the stranger. But they also knew that they now possessed the power to change their fate and save humanity from the darkness that threatened to consume them all. As they marched on, Elijah couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and determination swelling within him. He had come so far, transforming from a lumberjack into a tree-dwelling monster who now held the fate of humanity in his hands. And he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them with courage and strength, guided by the wisdom of Luna and the loyalty of his allies. The journey was long and fraught with danger, but Elijah knew that he had found his purpose. He would lead the humans-turned-monsters in a rebellion against the monstrous apocalypse, forging a new path as the first forest-dwelling hero. Together, they would stand against the darkness and fight for hope and redemption. And though he knew that their road was fraught with peril, Elijah felt a renewed sense of purpose burning within him. He would not give up, and neither would his allies. They were the last vestige of humanity, and they would not go down without a fight. With a cry of defiance, Elijah led his allies deeper into the heart of the forest, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The monstrous apocalypse was coming, but they would not go quietly into the night. They would stand tall and proud, their weapons raised high, as they fought for their lives and the future of humanity itself. And perhaps, just perhaps, they would find a way to turn the tide against the darkness that threatened to consume them all. The fate of the world rested on their shoulders, but Elijah knew that he was not alone. He had his allies, his friends, and the artifact of the ancients. Together, they would face the monstrous apocalypse and emerge victorious. As they marched on, the air crackled with energy, filled with a sense of purpose and determination. Elijah could feel it in every step he took, in every breath he took. He was no longer just a lumberjack reborn as a tree-dwelling monster. He was a hero destined to forge a new path through the ancient woods and lead humanity into a brighter future. The monstrous apocalypse would not defeat them. They would rise above it, stronger and more resilient than ever before. And when it was all over, they would stand tall and proud, their weapons raised high, as they looked out upon the world they had fought so hard to save. And perhaps, just perhaps, they would find a way to turn the tide against the darkness that threatened to consume them all. The fate of the world rested on their shoulders, but Elijah knew that he was not alone. He had his allies, his friends, and the artifact of the ancients. Together, they would face the monstrous apocalypse and emerge victorious. As the sun set behind them, casting long shadows across the ancient woods, Elijah and his allies pressed onwards, their hearts filled with determination and hope. They knew that the road ahead was long and fraught with danger, but they also knew that they were destined for greatness. They would face the monstrous apocalypse head-on, armed with courage and strength. And when it was all over, they would stand tall and proud, their weapons raised high, as they looked out upon the world they had fought so hard to save. And perhaps, just perhaps, they would find a way to turn the tide against the darkness that threatened to consume them all. The fate of the world rested on their shoulders, but Elijah knew that he was not alone. He had his allies, his friends, and the artifact of the ancients. Together, they would forge a new path through the ancient woods and lead humanity into a brighter future. With renewed purpose in his heart, Elijah marched onwards, his eyes fixed upon the horizon. The monstrous apocalypse loomed ahead, but he knew that he was ready to face it. He would not give up, and neither would his allies. They were the last vestige of humanity, and they would not go quietly into the night. Together, they would stand tall and proud, their weapons raised high as they faced the darkness that threatened to consume them all. And when it was all over, they would emerge victorious, their spirits unbroken and their resolve unshaken. The embered arborealist, the sun dipped below the dense canopy as Elijah, Luna, and Zara stepped cautiously down the narrow passageway within the massive oak tree's trunk. The air was thick with tension, the scent of damp earth and ancient wood mingling with the hum of the artifact hidden deep within this ancient forest. "Are you ready?" Elijah asked, his voice barely audible over the whispering leaves. Zara nodded, her eyes focused on the glowing crystals that illuminated their path. "We must move quickly," she replied, her gaze never wavering from the crystal's flickering light. Luna, ever the wise elder, placed a gentle hand on Elijah's shoulder. "Remember, Elijah," she said softly, "the artifact is our hope, but it may not be the only solution." The trio ventured deeper into the heart of the ancient woods, their footsteps echoing off the cavernous walls as they approached the chamber. The crystal's glow grew brighter, casting dancing shadows on the rough bark of the massive oak tree that surrounded them. Suddenly, a distant rumble shook the ground beneath their feet, and they exchanged uneasy glances. "That can't be good," Zara muttered as the noise grew louder, drawing nearer. A sudden burst of light flooded the chamber, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness standing at its entrance. The stranger's eyes gleamed with malice as they locked onto the artifact. Elijah took a step forward, his fists clenched as he braced for battle. "Leave the artifact, and we will spare your life," he growled. The stranger laughed coldly, their voice echoing through the chamber. "You are too weak to stop me." They taunted before lunging towards Elijah with a swiftness that took him by surprise. Zara leapt into action, her claws flashing as she engaged the stranger in a brutal battle for possession of the artifact. The two warriors circled each other, their movements a blur as they traded blows within the dimly lit chamber. Luna stood back, watching with concern as Elijah struggled against the stranger's relentless assault. The elder closed her eyes and focused her energy, calling upon ancient magic to strengthen Elijah in his moment of need. With a final burst of strength, Elijah managed to disarm the stranger, sending them sprawling to the ground. Zara seized the opportunity, pinning the stranger beneath her as they gasped for breath. "I think that's enough," Elijah said, panting heavily as he stood over their defeated foe. "Let's take this artifact and leave." As they made their way back to the hidden sanctuary within the grove of refuge, Luna couldn't shake the feeling that their victory was only temporary. The rumble from earlier had grown louder, and the heart of the forest seemed to tremble with unseen forces. "We must be prepared for what comes next," she warned as they huddled around the campfire. "Silas will not rest until he has the artifact in his possession." Elijah nodded grimly, his gaze fixed on the glowing crystal that now rested safely within their midst. He knew that their battle was far from over, but he also felt a newfound determination burning within him. "We will face whatever comes our way," he vowed, together. A sense of foreboding hung over the group as they ventured deeper into the dense thicket of ancient trees, their footsteps barely audible amidst the rustling leaves and creaking branches. The air was thick with tension, the weight of their mission hanging heavy upon them like a cloak. "We are close," Luna whispered, her voice barely more than a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might summon the darkness they sought to avoid. Elijah's heart raced, his body tensed, and he felt the familiar stirrings of his tree-like nature. He could sense that their pursuer was closing in, and it was only a matter of time before they would be discovered. The thought sent shivers down his spine. They reached the crossroads in the heart of the forest, the ancient oak tree looming ominously ahead. Its massive trunk seemed to pulse with an energy that hummed in harmony with Elijah's own. Luna led them towards a narrow path carved within the tree's trunk, her eyes gleaming with determination and ancient wisdom. As they entered the passageway, it felt as if they were stepping into another world, one where time seemed to slow and the air grew colder. They walked for what felt like hours until they came upon a hidden chamber within the massive oak tree, a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals that bathed them in an eerie light. Zara's eyes widened as she took in the sight before her, and Elijah could see the fire burning within her soul ignite even further. He knew the artifact they sought was here, but he also knew that their time was running out. Suddenly, a faint sound echoed through the chamber, the sound of footsteps approaching. Their pursuers had found them at last. Elijah braced himself for battle, his tree-like limbs coiling around his body, as he prepared to defend his friends and their mission. As they faced their adversaries, a young woman stepped forth from the shadows, her eyes locked onto the artifact that lay within the chamber. The tension between them was palpable, and for a moment, it seemed as if time stood still. "This is our destiny," she hissed, her voice cold and calculating. "The artifact is ours by right." Elijah felt a surge of anger course through him, but Luna placed a steadying hand on his arm. "We cannot let it come to this," she whispered. "There must be another way." With a fierce determination, Zara stepped forward, her eyes blazing with a fire that seemed almost supernatural in its intensity. "You will not take what is rightfully ours," she cried, charging at the young woman. The two warriors clashed, their bodies colliding with a thunderous impact as they fought for control of the artifact. Elijah and Luna watched from the sidelines, both knowing that this battle would determine their fate and the fate of the forest. As they watched, an ancient scroll unfurled itself, floating gracefully towards them. Luna's eyes widened as she read the words written upon it, her heart racing with a newfound understanding. "The artifact is not a weapon," she whispered, her voice barely more than a breath. "It is a key to their salvation or destruction." With renewed determination, Elijah and Luna joined the fray, fighting alongside Zara against their adversary. Together, they held their ground, their bodies entwined as they battled for control of the artifact. As the battle raged on, Silas and his minions burst into the chamber, their eyes fixed upon the prize they sought. With a roar, they launched themselves at the three warriors, their bodies twisted and contorted in ways that defied nature. Elijah felt his tree-like limbs coiling around him as he prepared for battle, his body surging with power as he fought to defend his friends and the artifact. The air was thick with the scent of blood and the sound of clashing steel as the two sides battled for control of the chamber. In the midst of the chaos, Luna reached out towards the artifact, her fingers brushing against its surface. As she touched it, a brilliant light erupted from within, illuminating the chamber in an ethereal glow. Suddenly, the air around them shifted, and the battle seemed to slow as if time itself had come to a standstill. The minions of Silas froze mid-attack, their bodies locked in place as if caught in some ancient spell. Luna's eyes met Elijah's, her face filled with a mixture of determination and sorrow. "We must go," she whispered, her voice barely more than a whisper. The artifact has chosen its master. With one final look at the artifact, they turned and fled the chamber, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that they had made a choice that would determine not only their own fate, but the fate of the forest itself. As they ran through the ancient woods, Elijah could feel the weight of their decision bearing down upon them. He knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, forging a new path as they prepared for an impending apocalypse. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the forest floor as they made their way back to the grove of refuge. The air was filled with the scent of burning wood and the sound of laughter as the other human-turned monsters gathered around a campfire, sharing stories and memories of times gone by. Elijah felt a pang of longing as he watched them, knowing that he could never truly belong among them again. He was something new, a tree-dwelling monster, destined to lead his kind into battle against the forces that threatened their very existence. As they reached the grove, Luna turned to him, her eyes filled with a mixture of pride and sadness. "We have made our choice," she whispered. "Now we must face whatever comes next." Elijah nodded, his heart heavy with the weight of their decision. He knew that the road ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but he also knew that he was ready to embrace his monster identity and forge a new path through the forest as the first forest-dwelling hero. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting the grove in twilight as they settled down for the night, their bodies weary from battle but their spirits unbroken. They knew that whatever lay ahead, they would face it together, united against the darkness that threatened to consume them all. As they slept beneath the stars, Elijah felt a sense of peace wash over him. He knew that they had made a choice that would change their lives forever. But he also knew that it was the right one, the only one that would ensure their survival and the survival of the forest itself. The embered arborealist deep within the heart of the forest. They approached the ancient oak tree that Luna had warned them about. The massive oak stood tall, its twisted branches stretching towards the sky, a symbol of the powerful forces lurking beneath. The dense thicket surrounding it seemed to pulse with life, as if the very earth itself was breathing. "Do you feel it?" Elijah asked, his eyes focused on the tree. This is where our destinies are decided." Luna nodded, her expression grave. "We must be cautious." Silas has been preparing for this moment. Zara sheathed her sword and nodded, determination etched into her face. "I'm ready." The three made their way towards the narrow path carved within the tree's trunk, a hidden chamber waiting at its end. The air grew colder as they entered the passageway, ancient echoes whispering of battles past and secrets yet to be discovered. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the forest, Elijah felt his senses heighten. He could feel the presence of others, nearby strangers who may seek the artifact for their own selfish desires. After what felt like an eternity, they arrived at a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals, casting eerie shadows upon the walls. In the center stood another chamber, its entrance guarded by two massive stone statues that seemed to watch them with cold eyes. Elijah could feel the power radiating from the artifact held within, the key to their salvation or destruction. "We must be careful," Luna warned as they approached the chamber. "Silas and his minions may already be here." They moved stealthily, keeping close to the shadows as they entered the narrow passageway. The air grew thick with tension, a feeling of unease settling over them all. Suddenly, a rustle in the bushes caught their attention, and Elijah tensed, his senses on high alert. A figure emerged from the undergrowth, moving stealthily towards them. The stranger's eyes flickered with hunger as they locked onto the artifact. "That's it," the stranger growled, their voice low and menacing. "I will take it for myself." Zara stepped forward, her sword glinting in the dim light. "You won't get far," she warned. As the battle raged on, Elijah felt a surge of power coursing through him, his newfound abilities manifesting as he fought to protect the artifact. The stranger proved to be a formidable opponent, but Elijah's determination refused to waver. Finally, Zara managed to disarm the intruder, her blade glinting in the dim light. "Enough," she cried, her voice echoing through the chamber. "You will not take what is ours." The stranger seemed to shrink under her gaze, retreating back into the shadows from whence they came. Elijah and Zara shared a tense glance, both knowing that their enemies would return with reinforcements. "We must hurry," Luna urged, urging them towards the artifact. "Silas is close, and we cannot afford to lose our advantage." Deep within the heart of the forest, a dense thicket of ancient trees concealed a hidden grove, known as the Grove of Refuge. Elijah, Luna, Zara, and their newfound allies from the sanctuary huddled around a crackling campfire. They had barely rested when they heard the distant rumblings of Silas and his minions approaching. "We must move quickly," Elijah warned as he scanned the surrounding trees for escape routes. "I feel their presence getting closer." Luna nodded grimly, her ancient eyes filled with wisdom and concern. "The Grove of Refuge will not protect us for long against Silas' wrath." Zara stood tall, her eyes gleaming with determination. "We will fight," she growled, drawing her weapon. "Together, we stand a chance." The group gathered their supplies and moved stealthily through the dense thicket, seeking refuge in another chamber within an ancient oak tree. They found it just as Silas and his minions burst into the chamber they'd left behind. Elijah could sense their malice from afar. They were here for one thing, the artifact of the ancients. The group entered a narrow passageway, hearts pounding with fear. They knew that the artifact held immense power, and if it fell into Silas' hands, the monstrous apocalypse would be inevitable. The air grew tense as they continued their journey deeper into the heart of the forest. As they reached another chamber, they found themselves face to face with a stranger who seemed to be searching for the artifact too. A battle erupted between Zara and the stranger, their weapons clashing in an intense dance of steel and fury. Meanwhile, Elijah and Luna kept watch, prepared to intervene if needed. The fight was fierce, neither combatant gaining the upper hand. Suddenly, the stranger lunged at Zara with a desperate cry, aiming for her heart. But Zara saw it coming and countered swiftly, deflecting the attack and striking back. The stranger fell to the ground, defeated. Elijah approached the fallen combatant, who looked up at him with pleading eyes. "The artifact. I only wanted to protect it," she panted. "But you would have used it against us," Elijah retorted sternly, his humanity struggling with compassion. He hesitated for a moment before extending a hand to help her up. "We cannot let Silas have the artifact. Together we can find another way." Then, the embered arborealist, as Elijah clutched the artifact, he felt its power pulsating through him. He glanced at the others, Luna, Zara, and their newfound ally, who looked disheveled but determined. The stranger's eyes shimmered with gratitude and fear as they all gathered around a campfire, their faces illuminated by its warm glow. Luna spoke solemnly, "We must move again soon. Silas will not rest until he claims the artifact for himself." Zara nodded grimly. "I've sensed his minions closing in. We can't linger here long." The stranger stepped forward, their voice barely above a whisper. "I understand the gravity of the situation. I will help you fight Silas." Elijah hesitated, his heart heavy with concern. He knew that allowing this stranger into their group could be perilous. But he also understood that they needed all the allies they could find in these trying times. With a nod, he agreed, "We'll need to move quickly. There's a narrow path carved within an ancient oak tree not far from here." The group set off once more, their footsteps echoing through the dense thicket of ancient trees. As they ventured deeper into the heart of the forest, Elijah felt his senses heighten. He could sense danger lurking nearby. Silas and his minions were growing closer. They reached the massive oak tree as twilight began to fall. The trunk was gnarled and twisted, its roots extending far beneath the earth. The narrow path within its trunk beckoned them forward. They entered cautiously, their hearts pounding with anticipation and dread. The chamber within the tree's heart was cavernous, filled with glowing crystals that illuminated the space in an eerie light. In the center stood another hidden artifact, smaller but no less potent than the one they had claimed earlier. As Elijah reached for it, a chill ran down his spine. "Silas," he murmured, "they're here." A chorus of snarls and growls echoed through the chamber. The air grew thick with malice as Silas and his minions burst into the room, their eyes locked on the artifact. Zara sprang into action, her claws slashing out at the first monster that dared to approach them. Luna summoned ancient runes to defend themselves, while Elijah fought with every ounce of strength he had. The stranger joined the fray, their newfound powers manifesting in a burst of fiery energy. The battle raged on for what felt like an eternity, the chamber shaking with each blow exchanged between combatants. Sweat dripped from their brow as they fought for survival, their lives, the artifact, and the fate of humanity hanging in the balance. Finally, as the last monster collapsed to the ground, Elijah caught his breath, panting heavily. He glanced at the others, gratitude shining in his eyes. Together they had survived another encounter with Silas and his minions. As Elijah and Luna ventured deep within the forest, they stumbled upon a dense thicket of ancient trees. The air was thick with an energy unlike anything they had felt before. They could feel their heartbeats quickening as they approached the heart of the dense thicket. A narrow path carved within the tree's trunk led them to a hidden chamber within the massive oak, illuminated by a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals. At the center of the chamber stood an ancient artifact that seemed to hum with energy. Suddenly, they heard footsteps echoing through the narrow passageway. Elijah and Luna turned just in time to see Silas and his minions burst into chamber, their eyes fixed on the artifact. A battle for the artifact ensued between Elijah's group and the monstrous beings. Meanwhile, Zara was engaged in a fierce battle with the young woman who had sought the artifact for her own purposes. The two warriors clashed swords, their movements precise and deadly. As they fought, another figure emerged from the shadows, a stranger who seemed to have been waiting for them all along. He lunged at Elijah, but Luna stepped in between them, shielding her protege with her own body. The stranger's claws sliced through Luna's arm, leaving a deep wound. Elijah roared with fury, his newfound powers surging within him. He launched himself at the stranger, the two combatants crashing into the ancient oak tree. The chamber shook as they battled, their strength and energy threatening to shatter the crystals that surrounded them. Luna lay on the ground, clutching her wounded arm. Zara finished off the young woman, then rushed to Luna's side. Elijah continued his relentless assault on the stranger until he was finally defeated. The embered arborealist deep within the heart of the forest, Elijah stood guard atop an ancient oak tree, his eyes scanning the dense thicket below. The air was thick with tension as Luna lay recovering from her wounds. Zara kept watch, and a newfound ally tended to their campfire. A strange sensation washed over him, sending chills down his spine. "They're coming," Elijah whispered, gripping the branches tightly. The others turned toward him, alert. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the forest as Silas and his minions burst into the chamber, their eyes set on the glowing artifact that lay within the heart of the ancient oak tree. Elijah leaped from his perch, landing gracefully among the warriors. Luna, now healed, stood by his side, her eyes filled with determination. "We've come for the artifact," growled Silas, baring his teeth in a sinister grin. Zara stepped forward, her sword ready. "Over my dead body," she shouted, blocking their path. The young woman stood beside her, her eyes flashing with anger as she gripped the small, delicate artifact given to them by the stranger. The battle that ensued was fierce and brutal, each side determined to claim the artifact for themselves. Elijah fought with renewed strength, his tree-like limbs wrapping around Silas' minions, crushing them beneath him. Luna unleashed bursts of energy, sending shockwaves through the chamber, while Zara and the young woman clashed swords in a whirlwind of steel. As the battle raged on, another adversary emerged, the mysterious stranger who had attacked Elijah earlier. The newcomer was quick and agile, darting between combatants with ease. Luna defended herself valiantly, parrying attacks and striking back with precision. However, her movements grew slower as the stranger's blows began to take their toll. The chamber shook as the battle continued, glowing crystals shattering around them. Elijah felt a surge of energy coursing through him, drawing upon the power of the forest to strengthen his resolve. With renewed determination, he focused his energy on the stranger, striking with swift precision. The two clashed, their powers meeting in a burst of light and heat. The battle seemed endless, but eventually both adversaries fell exhausted at Elijah's feet. Zara and the young woman stood victorious, clutching the artifact between them. Luna lay on the ground, her wounds still fresh but healing rapidly. "We must leave," Elijah said, helping Luna to her feet. "The forest is not safe for us here." With their foes defeated and the artifact safely in their possession, they made their way back to the Grove of Refuge. The days that followed were spent resting and recovering, discussing their next move in preparation for the approaching monstrous apocalypse. As twilight fell upon the grove, a sense of unease settled over Elijah. He knew that their time within this sanctuary was limited. The forest called to him, urging him to take action and face whatever lay ahead. With renewed determination, he looked at Luna, Zara, and their new ally. "We must prepare," he said gravely. "Silas will not rest until he claims the artifact for himself." Deep within the heart of the dense thicket, Elijah's group huddled around a crackling campfire. Luna sat nearby, nursing her wounds, while Zara stood watch. The air was thick with tension as they discussed their next move in preparation for the approaching monstrous apocalypse. "We can't stay here much longer," Elijah said, staring into the flames. "Silas will be back." Luna nodded gravely. "We must find allies to help us face this threat. We have an artifact of immense power in our possession. We cannot let it fall into the wrong hands." The young woman, who had been silent throughout their conversation, suddenly spoke up. "I know a place where others like us live," she said quietly, "a hidden grove deep within these ancient woods. They might be able to help us." Elijah exchanged glances with Zara, then turned back to the young woman. "Lead us there," he said, a determination burning in his eyes. The following day, they set off on their journey, making their way through narrow paths and dense thickets of ancient trees. As twilight fell upon them, they stumbled upon an ominous-looking massive oak tree at the heart of the forest. Within its trunk lay a hidden chamber, its entrance guarded by two stone statues of creatures half human, half beast. "This is it," the young woman whispered reverently. The Grove of Refuge. Entering the chamber, they found themselves in a cavernous space, filled with glowing crystals that cast an eerie light upon the ancient relics scattered around them. As Elijah approached one such artifact, a mysterious stranger emerged from the shadows. "You seek the artifact of the ancients," the stranger asked ominously. "I could help you, for a price." Zara stepped forward, her eyes narrowing. "We will not be threatened here," she growled. The stranger smirked and lunged at Zara, initiating a fierce battle between them. Elijah and the young woman joined in, determined to protect their newfound sanctuary. Luna, though weakened from her wounds, fought valiantly alongside them, her ancient wisdom proving invaluable as they managed to overcome their adversary. Exhausted but victorious, they rested within the grove, sharing stories and laughter with the other human-turned monsters who welcomed them warmly. As dawn broke, Elijah knew that the time had come for him to make a choice: embrace his monster identity or return to his old life. In the end, he decided to lead these newfound allies in a rebellion against the impending monstrous apocalypse, forging a new path as the first forest-dwelling hero. The embered arborealist Elijah's eyes flickered open as a faint light filtered through the dense canopy above him. He found himself wrapped in soft vines, nestled within the massive oak tree's heart. His group had reached their destination, the hidden chamber within this ancient oak. The air was thick with anticipation as they gathered around Luna, who studied a small, delicate artifact glowing softly in her hands. "This is it," she whispered, "the key to our salvation, but also to our destruction," Elijah reminded her somberly. The artifact of the ancients was powerful, capable of reversing their transformations and returning them to human form, but at a cost. They would lose everything they had fought for, their newfound abilities, friendships, and even their connection with nature itself. As they debated, a sudden commotion echoed from outside the chamber. Elijah's heart raced as he heard the snarls and growls of Silas and his minions. The alpha monster had found them. "We must act fast," Luna urged. "Split up. Protect this artifact at all costs." Zara, a fierce warrior with a mysterious past, volunteered to guard the young woman who carried another hidden artifact. Elijah took point, his body tensing as he braced for battle. Luna, her eyes filled with determination and wisdom, handed him the glowing relic. "You carry our hope, Elijah," she said quietly. "Never forget that." As he ran towards the narrow passageway leading from the chamber, Elijah felt a surge of strength course through his veins. He knew what lay ahead. Silas and his minions would stop at nothing to claim the artifact for themselves. But he also remembered Luna's words, that they had a chance to change their world for the better. Deep within the dense thicket of ancient trees, the heart of the forest echoed with the cries of unseen creatures. A narrow path carved within the tree's trunk led Elijah, Luna, Zara, and several human-turned monsters towards a hidden chamber. "We must be careful," Luna warned as they approached the ancient oak tree, her voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. Silas could be lurking anywhere. Elijah gripped the artifact tightly, feeling its energy pulsating against his palm. He glanced back at Zara, who stood tall and strong, her eyes gleaming with determination. "We'll protect it with our lives," she vowed. Just then, the ground shook beneath them as Silas and his minions burst into the chamber. The air crackled with energy as a fierce battle ensued. Elijah fought alongside Luna and Zara, defending the artifact from Silas' grasp. As they battled, a mysterious stranger appeared out of nowhere, attacking Elijah's group from behind. Luna engaged the stranger in combat while Zara focused on protecting the artifact. The battle raged on, each side determined not to lose the powerful relic. Finally, with a cry of victory, Elijah managed to fend off Silas and the stranger, clutching the artifact tightly. Luna collapsed onto the ground, exhausted from her struggle against the mysterious assailant. "We must leave," Elijah ordered, helping Luna up. "We cannot stay here." They retreated through the narrow passageway, pursued by Silas and his minions. As they fled deeper into the forest, they stumbled upon a hidden sanctuary, the Grove of Refuge. "This is our haven," Zara whispered as they entered the grove, relief washing over her face. "We'll regroup here." As the sun set on their new home, Elijah felt a renewed sense of purpose. He would protect the artifact and lead his people to victory against Silas and the monstrous apocalypse. The embered arborealis, the grove's tranquility, was shattered by a sudden commotion from deep within the forest. Elijah and Luna shared worried glances as they exchanged tense whispers, sensing danger lurking nearby. They quickly mobilized their companions, Zara Elderzander, the young woman, and the mysterious stranger, warning them of the impending threat. "We cannot stay here any longer," Elijah said, his voice echoing with urgency. "Silas' minions are close. We must move." They retreated from their hidden sanctuary into the dense thicket of ancient trees. The forest whispered secrets as they navigated its labyrinthine paths, Luna leading them towards a narrow passageway carved within an ominous-looking massive oak tree. As they delved deeper, tension hung heavy in the air, and whispers echoed from unseen creatures lurking beyond the shadows. "We must be careful," Luna warned. "The forest is always watching." They reached a hidden chamber within the ancient oak's heart. A campfire crackled with sparks, illuminating the faces of their exhausted companions. Elijah gazed at his fellow travelers, each one a testament to the harsh life they had chosen. He felt a pang of guilt for leading them into this perilous journey, but knew that they were united in a common cause: survival against the looming monstrous apocalypse. The next morning, they ventured deeper into the forest. The air grew colder as they approached the heart of the ancient woods. A narrow path led them to an awe-inspiring sight, a massive oak tree that seemed to pulse with energy. Its branches stretched out like gnarled fingers reaching for the heavens, and its trunk was adorned with intricate carvings that whispered of ancient secrets. "This is the heart of the forest," Luna said reverently. the center of our world. Elijah felt a shiver run down his spine as he stared at the mighty oak. He could sense the power emanating from it, and he knew that they were close to discovering the truth about their transformation. As they approached the tree, the air crackled with energy, and a sudden gust of wind sent leaves swirling around them. They entered the cavernous space filled with glowing crystals. The light danced off the walls, casting eerie shadows that seemed to come alive. Elijah could feel his heart pounding in his chest as they ventured deeper into the chamber. He felt a strange sense of déjà vu, like he had been here before. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the chamber. The group spun around, their eyes wide with fear, only to find themselves face to face with Silas and his minions. The alpha monster sneered at them, his eyes burning with malice. "I've been waiting for you," he growled, baring his fangs. "Give me the artifact, or I'll tear this forest apart looking for it." Elijah gritted his teeth, determined not to give in to Silas' threats. He knew that if they surrendered the artifact, all hope would be lost. As the battle raged on, Elijah realized that their only chance lay in working together and relying on each other's strengths. Together, they fought against Silas and his minions, using every ounce of strength they had to hold their own. Zara proved to be a formidable warrior, while the young woman displayed surprising agility and cunning. Luna fought with the wisdom and experience that came from centuries spent in this forest, while Elder Xander held them together, providing guidance and encouragement. In the end, they emerged victorious. Silas lay defeated, his minions vanquished. Elijah felt a sense of relief wash over him as he gazed upon the fallen alpha monster. But their victory was short-lived, for out of the shadows stepped the mysterious stranger, who revealed himself to be a long-time enemy seeking the artifact for his own nefarious purposes. "I've been waiting for this moment," the stranger said menacingly. "You will never possess the power you seek." The battle between Elijah and the stranger was fierce, each of them determined to claim the artifact. Luna fought valiantly by his side, using her ancient knowledge and powerful magic to hold off the mysterious assailant. In a moment of desperation, Zara stepped forward, challenging the stranger to a duel for the artifact. The battle between Zara and the stranger was fierce, their clashes echoing through the forest. The air crackled with energy as they exchanged powerful blows, neither giving an inch. In the end, Zara emerged victorious, grasping the artifact in her hand. But their triumph was short-lived as Silas and his minions burst back into the chamber, intent on reclaiming the artifact at any cost. The final battle was brutal, a testament to the strength of both sides. Elijah, Luna, Zara, and their companions fought with every ounce of energy they had left, determined not to let Silas claim victory. In the end, they managed to drive off Silas and his minions, but at a great cost. As the dust settled, Elijah gazed upon his battered group, grateful for their unwavering courage. He knew that they had faced insurmountable odds and come out victorious, but he also knew that their journey was far from over. They still needed to confront the monstrous apocalypse and find a way to live harmoniously with the forest's other inhabitants. With newfound determination, Elijah looked towards the future, knowing that they would face even greater challenges ahead. He realized that he had embraced his monster identity and was ready to lead them in their fight against the monstrous apocalypse, forging a new path as the first forest-dwelling hero. The ancient oak tree stood tall and strong at the heart of the dense thicket, its massive trunk concealing a hidden chamber within. Elijah, Luna, Zara, and the rest of their group huddled together around a campfire, their faces drawn with exhaustion from the recent battle against Silas and his minions. "We cannot stay here," Elijah murmured, looking up at the towering tree above them. "Silas will find us eventually." Luna nodded gravely. "We must move deeper into the forest, to a place where he cannot follow." Zara's eyes flashed with determination. "I will not rest until Silas is destroyed." "We all share that goal," Elijah replied, his voice firm. "But we need to be strategic. We have an artifact that could reverse our transformations, but it could also give Silas immense power if he gets his hands on it." A young woman stepped out from the shadows, clutching a small, delicate artifact in her hand. "I found this on my way here," she said quietly, holding up the glowing relic for all to see. It could be the key to our salvation or destruction. The air grew tense as they exchanged suspicious glances. The stranger who had appeared out of nowhere claimed to have come from another hidden sanctuary deep within the forest. But she also sought the artifact, and it was clear that her intentions were not pure. "You will not take it," Elijah declared, standing tall before the young woman. "It is meant for those who are willing to fight for the future of our people." The young woman's eyes narrowed, a look of challenge in them. "If you refuse me, I will have no choice but to take it by force." As the group prepared for battle, they heard the ominous sound of footsteps approaching. Silas and his minions burst into the chamber, their monstrous forms snarling and growling as they advanced on Elijah's group. The stranger took advantage of the confusion to make her move, lunging for the artifact with a battle cry. Zara quickly intercepted her, engaging in a fierce struggle over the coveted relic. Meanwhile, Luna stood before Silas and his minions, her ancient powers crackling around her as she prepared to defend their group. The battle was long and brutal, but Elijah's group managed to fend off both their pursuers and the mysterious stranger. As the dust settled, they found themselves victorious, though battered and bruised from the encounter. "We must leave this place," Luna said, her voice hoarse from battle. "Silas will regroup and strike again." Elijah nodded, looking at the artifact clutched tightly in Zara's hand. "We cannot rest until we have dealt with Silas once and for all." "But what if he finds us?" the young woman asked, worry etching her features. "What if he learns of our location?" Elijah looked at her steadily. "Then we will face him head-on, together." The embered arborealist deep within the heart of the dense thicket of ancient trees. Elijah and his group huddle around a campfire, their bodies battered from the latest battle against Silas and his minions. The air was heavy with tension as they discussed their options for the artifact that could reverse their transformations, but also give immense power to Silas if he found it. A young woman approached them hesitantly, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "I have come with a message," she began, her voice barely audible above the crackling fire. "The artifact, it is here." Luna, her eyes narrowing, studied the woman carefully. "What do you want from us?" "I have seen your struggle against Silas and his minions," the young woman replied, stepping closer to the campfire's light. "I can help you find the artifact, but it comes at a price." Elijah exchanged glances with Luna before addressing the stranger. "What kind of price?" "Allies," she said, her eyes flickering in the firelight. "Silas has been gathering power, and soon he will strike again. You need friends to help you stand against him." A murmur rose from Elijah's group as they considered the offer, weighing their need for the artifact against the potential cost. The young woman watched them silently before speaking once more. "I have information about a hidden chamber within an ancient oak tree nearby. In that chamber, you will find another hidden artifact that can guide you to the artifact of the ancients." Luna stepped forward, her eyes meeting those of the young woman. "We accept your help. But be warned, we will not let our people fall into Silas' hands without a fight." The young woman nodded solemnly before leading them to the hidden chamber within the massive oak tree. As they ventured deeper, Elijah could feel the tension growing, his senses telling him that danger lurked nearby. He tightened his grip on his axe, determined to protect his friends and the artifact at any cost. Upon reaching the cavernous space filled with glowing crystals, they found another hidden artifact, a small, delicate object humming with energy. Elijah could sense its power, and he knew that it was exactly what they needed to find the artifact of the ancients. But as they prepared to leave, they heard the sound of footsteps approaching from the narrow passageway. Elijah's heart pounded in his chest as a stranger emerged from the shadows, a menacing glint in his eyes. The stranger's intentions were not pure, and Elijah knew that if he allowed this new adversary to take the artifact, all hope would be lost. The battle began, each side determined to claim the ancient relic for their own. Zara fought fiercely against the stranger, her years of training serving her well as she defended the artifact with every ounce of strength she had. Luna stood guard beside Elijah, her wisdom and experience a formidable force in the face of their adversary. As the battle raged on, Silas and his minions burst into the chamber, catching them off guard. The air filled with chaos as Elijah's group fought to fend off both the stranger and Silas' minions. But despite their best efforts, they were outnumbered and overwhelmed. The battle was lost, and the artifact taken by the mysterious assailant. Elijah felt a wave of despair wash over him as he watched Luna collapse, injured in the fight. He knew that they had failed to protect the artifact, but he refused to give up hope. "We'll find another way," Elijah vowed, his voice barely audible above the sound of their pursuers leaving the chamber. "We can still stop Silas and save our people." As they limped away from the hidden chamber, Elijah felt a renewed sense of determination coursing through him. He knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but he was ready to face whatever lay before them for the sake of their survival. And with Luna's wisdom and Zara's strength by his side, he was confident that they could find a way to overcome the challenges that awaited them. Deep within the heart of the forest, a narrow path carved within the tree's trunk leads the group to a hidden chamber within an ancient oak tree. A campfire crackles in the center, casting dancing shadows upon the walls as Luna lies recovering from her injuries. Elijah stands guard atop the massive oak tree's branches, gazing into the distance. He scans the forest, searching for any signs of danger while Zara keeps watch by the fire. The mysterious artifact given by the young woman rests on a makeshift altar near Luna, its glow illuminating her pale features. The chamber hums with energy, Elijah murmurs to himself, sensing an ancient power pulsating from the artifact. "We must protect it." Zara nods, gripping her sword tightly as she watches over the group. The air is tense, filled with anticipation and dread as they wait for Silas or his minions to strike. Suddenly, a loud crack echoes through the heart of the forest, followed by the sound of breaking branches. Elijah's eyes widen as he spots figures moving stealthily towards their hidden sanctuary. "Strangers," Zara growls, readying herself for battle. "They've found us." The embered arborealist, the air trembled as a loud crack echoed through the heart of the forest. Luna's eyes flickered open, her senses alerting her to danger. With a groan, she pushed herself off the makeshift bed of leaves and vines, clutching at her wound. Zara stood guard near the entrance of their hidden chamber within the massive oak tree, her keen senses picking up the approach of intruders. "Intruders," Luna whispered urgently to Elijah as she moved closer to him, her movements slow and measured despite her injured state. "They've found us." Elijah's heart raced as he looked around at his makeshift family, Luna, Zara, the young woman, and the mysterious stranger who had given them the artifact. Each of their faces bore a mix of fear and determination, knowing that this fight could alter everything. The monstrous apocalypse drew nearer, and they were running out of time. As the intruders burst into the chamber, Elijah steeled himself. Silas stood at the front of a group of his minions, his eyes cold and calculating as he surveyed their enemies. He had come for the artifact, and he wouldn't rest until it was his. Zara growled, her claws extended as she bared her teeth at Silas. "You won't take what's ours without a fight," she snarled, her voice echoing through the chamber. The battle began in earnest as Elijah and Luna fought to protect their friends while Zara took on Silas and his minions. The young woman stood by the artifact, attempting to fend off the intruders who approached her, but a mysterious stranger appeared at her side, his intentions unclear as he joined the fray. As Elijah struggled against one of Silas' minions, he felt a sudden surge of power coursing through him. Luna had given him the artifact, whispering that it was their only hope. With renewed strength, Elijah fought back against his attacker, using every ounce of his newfound power to defend himself and those he cared about. The battle raged on as Silas' minions continued to press forward, attempting to take the artifact for themselves, but Zara refused to back down, her fierce determination fueling her every move. Despite their best efforts, they began to lose ground, their numbers dwindling as the intruders pressed them closer and closer to the artifact. In desperation, Luna called out to the mysterious stranger for help. "You bear a mark," she said, pointing at his arm where an ancient symbol glowed faintly. "Are you friend or foe?" The stranger hesitated before speaking, his eyes flickering with a mixture of guilt and determination. "I am neither," he said finally, "but I can help." With that, he turned on Silas' minions, using his own powers to turn the tide of the battle in their favor. As the dust settled, Elijah looked around at his battered friends. They had survived this encounter, but they were weaker than ever before. The monstrous apocalypse still loomed over them, and they knew that this was only the beginning of their struggles. But together, they would face whatever came next, united in their determination to protect each other and their home. Deep within the heart of the forest, the group huddled around a campfire in the hidden chamber within an ancient oak tree. Elijah sat quietly, staring into the flames as Luna spoke softly to him. "Elijah, my friend, we've faced many challenges and battles, but this one may be our greatest yet." "I know," he replied, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "But I won't let you or anyone else down. We will face Silas head-on, no matter what the cost." Luna's eyes twinkled as she smiled weakly. "You have grown strong in your new form, Elijah. But remember, there is more to life than just fighting. Together, we can change this forest and its inhabitants for the better." As Luna spoke, a rustling sound echoed from outside the chamber. The group tensed, ready to defend themselves against whatever danger lurked beyond their sanctuary. Elijah could feel his heart racing, adrenaline coursing through his veins as he prepared to face Silas and his minions once more. Suddenly, a young woman appeared from the narrow passageway carved within the tree's trunk, her eyes filled with fear. "Please," she begged, holding out a small, delicate artifact in her trembling hands. "I found this while searching for food. I thought it might help you." Zara stepped forward, her eyes narrowing as she examined the artifact. "This is one of the ancient relics," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "It could give us an edge in our fight against Silas and his minions." The young woman nodded frantically. I didn't know what it was. I just wanted to survive." Elijah took a deep breath before addressing the group. "We can't trust her, Zara is right. This artifact could be dangerous in the wrong hands." Zara nodded, her expression hardening as she approached the young woman. "I will take it for safekeeping," she said firmly. "We cannot risk someone like Silas getting his hands on it." The young woman's eyes filled with tears as she let go of the artifact. I understand," she stammered, her voice barely audible. "Please, help me. I don't want to die here." Elijah looked at Luna for guidance, but she only nodded sadly. "We can offer you protection for now, but we cannot promise more than that," she said gently. "You must understand that our enemies are many and powerful." The young woman nodded weakly, her eyes filled with a determination born of desperation. As the night wore on, the group discussed their plans for the upcoming battle against Silas and his minions. They knew they had to be prepared, not just for the physical fight, but also for psychological challenges that would come their way. As dawn broke, they made their preparations, arming themselves with the ancient relics they had collected. Elijah felt a strange sense of calm wash over him as he stood before the mirror-like surface of another hidden artifact, an ancient relic that seemed to hum with energy. He knew this was no ordinary battle. It would determine not just their survival, but the fate of the entire forest and its inhabitants. As they set out on their journey through the dense thicket, Elijah couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. His senses told him that danger lurked nearby, waiting to strike at the first opportunity. He tightened his grip on the relic in his hand, knowing that he would need every ounce of power he could muster if they were to emerge victorious from this conflict. Suddenly, a strange sound echoed through the ancient woods, a distant growl, unlike anything Elijah had ever heard before. He turned to Luna, his eyes wide with fear. "What was that?" he whispered urgently. Luna's expression grew grave as she glanced around nervously. "I don't know," she replied softly, "but we must press on. Silas and his minions won't wait for us to catch up." As they ventured deeper into the forest, the growling sound grew louder, until it seemed as if it was all around them. Elijah could sense a powerful presence nearby, one that made even his enhanced senses tremble. He knew without a doubt that they were close to Silas and his minions. The group burst into a narrow path carved within the massive oak tree's trunk, their hearts pounding with fear and anticipation. They could see a campfire up ahead, and they knew that this was where Silas and his minions had made their base of operations. Elijah took a deep breath before leading the charge, his relic held high as he called out to Luna, Zara, and the others. "Now or never," he roared, his voice echoing through the chamber. The battle that followed was fierce and brutal. Elijah fought with every ounce of strength he had, using his enhanced abilities to take down Silas' minions one by one. Luna fought alongside him, her ancient wisdom guiding their strategy as they tried to outmaneuver the relentless enemy. But even with all their combined efforts, it seemed like an uphill battle. Elijah could feel his strength waning, his body growing weaker with each passing moment. He knew that if they didn't find a way to turn the tide soon, they would be overwhelmed by Silas and his minions. Just when all hope seemed lost, a new voice rang out in the chaos, the mysterious stranger from before, who had sided with them during the previous battle. He fought with ferocity, taking down several of Silas' minions single-handedly as he wielded an ancient relic that seemed to glow with an otherworldly energy. Elijah watched in awe as the stranger battled alongside Zara, their combined forces turning the tide of the battle. They fought with everything they had, using every trick and technique at their disposal to outmaneuver Silas and his minions. In the end, it was Luna who dealt the final blow, striking down Silas with a powerful full strike that echoed through the chamber. The air seemed to crackle with energy as Silas fell to the ground, defeated at last. As the dust settled, Elijah looked around at his friends, feeling a strange sense of pride and relief wash over him. They had done it. They had defeated the greatest threat to their sanctuary and perhaps even the entire forest. But as he gazed into Luna's eyes, he knew that their victory was far from complete. The monstrous apocalypse still loomed on the horizon, and they would need every ounce of strength and courage they could muster to face whatever challenges awaited them in the days to come. The group spent the next few days resting and recuperating within the hidden chamber, tending to their wounds and discussing their plans for the future. Elijah knew that they couldn't stay here forever. Eventually, they would have to venture out into the world beyond their sanctuary and face whatever dangers lay ahead. One night, as they sat around the campfire, a strange figure approached them from the darkness. It was the mysterious stranger who had helped them during the battle against Silas and his minions. He held out an ancient scroll in his hand, its parchment worn and brittle with age. "This may help you in your fight against the monstrous apocalypse," he said softly, his voice barely audible. "It contains knowledge that could give you a powerful edge." Elijah took the scroll from him, feeling a strange sense of gratitude and wonder as he examined it. He knew that they would need every advantage they could get if they were to survive the coming storm. As the group prepared to set out once more, Elijah couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was far from over. He knew that there would be many challenges ahead, but he also felt a strange sense of determination and hope burning within him. Together with Luna, Zara, and the others, they would face whatever came their way, ready to fight for their home and their future. The embered arborealist deep within the heart of the forest, a narrow path carved within the tree's trunk led to a hidden chamber within an ancient oak tree. The air here was thick with anticipation and tension as Elijah's group huddled together, their eyes trained on the artifact resting atop a pedestal in the center of the room. "We must be cautious," Luna warned, her voice barely above a whisper. "Our enemies could arrive at any moment." Elijah nodded, his heart pounding as he scanned the chamber's entrance. The artifact was their key to salvation or destruction. They had to protect it at all costs. "I have a feeling someone is watching us," Zara said, her eyes narrowing as she surveyed the shadows. "We should prepare for battle." The group readied themselves, weapons at the ready, while Luna began waving a spell of protection around them. The air crackled with energy, and Elijah could feel it tingling on his skin. Just then, a commotion erupted outside the chamber. Silas and his minions burst into the room, their malicious intent clear in their eyes. Finally, Silas sneered, advancing towards the artifact. The time has come for me to claim my rightful place as ruler of this forest. A fierce battle ensued, as Elijah and his companions fought tooth and nail against Silas and his minions. The chamber echoed with the sounds of steel clashing against stone and wood, and the acrid scent of blood filled the air. But amidst the chaos, a stranger appeared, seemingly materializing out of thin air. He moved with fluid grace, dodging attacks from both sides as he made his way towards the artifact. "What are you doing here?" Elijah demanded, brandishing his axe. The stranger raised his hands in surrender. "I mean no harm," he said, his voice calm and measured despite the chaos around him. "I seek the artifact, but I promise it is not for nefarious purposes." Luna approached the stranger cautiously, studying his ancient symbol. It was one she had seen before, a symbol of an order long to be extinct, a group that once held the knowledge and power to shape the fate of their world. "Who are you?" Luna asked, her eyes filled with both curiosity and suspicion. "And why do you bear the mark of the ancients?" The stranger hesitated for a moment before answering. "My name is Victor," he said at last. "I am a scholar who has spent my life seeking knowledge. I believe this artifact may hold the key to unlocking secrets that could change everything." As the battle raged on, Zara stepped forward, her eyes never leaving Victor. "You expect us to trust you?" she asked, her voice cold and hard. "We've fought long enough against those who seek only power for themselves. Why should we believe your intentions are pure?" Victor raised his hands in surrender once more. "I understand your skepticism," he said. "But I swear to you my motives are honorable. If I could prove myself, would you consider working together? The artifact is powerful, stronger than any of us alone." For a moment, Elijah hesitated. He knew they needed all the allies they could get, but he couldn't shake the feeling that Victor was hiding something. Still, with the monstrous apocalypse looming over them, they had no choice but to take risks. "Very well," Luna said finally. "We will give you a chance to prove yourself. But if we sense any deceit or betrayal, there will be consequences." Victor nodded solemnly, his eyes filled with determination. Together, they fought against Silas and his minions, their combined strength giving them the edge they needed to defeat him. As Silas fell, his minions fled into the forest, leaving Elijah's group victorious but weary. With Silas defeated, they turned their attention back to Victor. Luna studied him closely, searching for any signs of deception, but in the end, she found none. "You have proven yourself worthy," she said at last. "For now." As the group gathered around the campfire that night, Elijah couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. He trusted Luna's judgment, but he knew they were walking a fine line. If Victor betrayed them, it would mean not only their own destruction but also the end of humanity itself. The narrow passageway carved within the tree's trunk led them deeper into the heart of the ancient oak. The chamber before them was a cavernous space filled with glowing crystals, casting an ethereal light upon their faces. "We must be careful," Elijah whispered to Luna as they stepped cautiously forward. "I sense that we are not alone." Luna nodded in agreement, her eyes scanning the room for any signs of danger. Zara and the others followed close behind them, weapons at the ready. A sudden commotion echoed from deeper within the chamber. A group of minions burst into the room, their twisted forms snarling and baring their teeth. Elijah's group braced themselves for battle, swords flashing as they struck down their attackers. In the chaos, a figure emerged from the shadows. Victor, his eyes glinting with determination. With swift movements, he dispatched several minions before joining the fight alongside Elijah's group. As they fought, Luna kept an eye on Victor. She could sense that there was more to him than met the eye and worried about trusting him completely. Still, she knew their odds of survival were better with his help than without it. Within moments, the battle was over. The minions lay defeated at their feet, their twisted forms still twitching in death throes. Elijah turned to Victor, a questioning look on his face. "I've been waiting for this opportunity," Victor said gruffly. "I can help you and your group defeat Silas once and for all." Elijah hesitated before nodding. "Very well, but I will keep my guard up. You must prove yourself." Victor gave a curt nod in response, his eyes never leaving Elijah's face. As they turned to survey the chamber once more, Luna couldn't shake the feeling that their journey had only just begun. In another part of the forest, Silas stood atop a massive oak tree, his eyes glowing with malice as he watched the battle unfold below him. He clenched his fists in rage, knowing that Elijah and his group would eventually find the artifact hidden deep within this ancient forest. "They think they can stop me," Silas sneered. "I will show them the true power of a monster." With a feral cry, he leaped from the tree, disappearing into the dense thicket of ancient trees below. His minions followed close behind, their twisted forms eager for battle. The fight against the monstrous apocalypse was far from over. Elijah's group knew that Silas would stop at nothing to obtain the artifact and bring about his twisted vision of a world ruled by monsters. And as they stood in the chamber, surrounded by glowing crystals, they prepared themselves for the battles ahead. Luna placed a comforting hand on Elijah's shoulder. "Remember, my dear friend," she whispered, "we are more than just monsters. We are humanity's last thing." The embered arborealist, as they rested near a campfire in the hidden chamber, within the massive oak tree's trunk, another conflict arose when strangers moved towards their sanctuary, seeking the artifact. The mysterious stranger approached Elijah's group, and it soon became clear that she was after the powerful relic. Zara engaged her in combat while Luna defended the group from the other assailants. In the midst of this battle, Silas and his minions burst into the chamber, seizing the opportunity to take the artifact for themselves. Elijah's group was outnumbered but managed to hold their ground, using every ounce of strength they had to protect the artifact and one another. The struggle continued deep within the heart of the ancient forest, with no clear victor in sight. As the battle raged on, Elijah found himself questioning whether he could truly trust Victor or if his allegiance still lay with Silas. Meanwhile, Zara's fierce determination to protect the artifact seemed to be waning as she struggled against the young woman who sought it for her own purposes. Luna stood guard, keeping a watchful eye on all sides while trying to keep their allies united. In the heart of the dense thicket deep within the forest, Elijah stood tall, his tree-like form glowing faintly under the dim light of the moon. A sense of unease hung in the air as they huddled around a campfire, guarding the artifact of immense power. Zara's eyes were fixed on the ancient relic, her determination unwavering. "We must protect it at all costs," she growled. Luna nodded, her gaze ever vigilant, watching for any signs of danger. Victor, with a sly smile, approached Elijah. "Elijah, my friend, I have a plan." "But first tell me, do you trust me?" he asked, his voice low and seductive. "I don't know," Elijah admitted, his brow furrowing in thought. He remembered the time Victor manipulated others for power, but he couldn't deny that the cunning politician might have a point. "What is your plan?" Victor leaned closer to Elijah, whispering, "I believe I can use my influence to turn some of Silas' minions against him. If we can convince them that he plans to betray them, we may be able to divide and conquer." Luna overheard the conversation, her eyes narrowing as she watched the two men talk. She knew better than anyone else how dangerous manipulation could be. "Elijah," she warned, "be careful with whom you trust." Elijah looked at Luna, understanding in his eyes. "I'll consider your words, Luna. For now, let us focus on keeping the artifact safe." As Elijah spoke, a faint rustling echoed through the trees. Silas and his minions burst into the chamber, their eyes set on the artifact. A tense silence filled the air before Zara lunged at them with a fierce roar. The battle was on. The group fought valiantly, but it seemed that Silas' numbers were overwhelming them. Just when all hope seemed lost, Victor stepped forward, using his charm to convince one of Silas' minions to turn against the alpha monster. In a surprising twist, the traitor attacked Silas, causing chaos among the minions. Seeing their chance, Elijah and Zara struck, delivering powerful blows that sent Silas staggering back. With a final effort, they forced him to retreat, leaving them victorious but exhausted. As the dust settled, the group gathered around the campfire once more. "We did it," Luna said, a hint of relief in her voice. "But we cannot rest yet. Silas will regroup and return." Elijah nodded. "You're right. We need to find a way to end this once and for all." He looked at Victor with newfound determination. "I trust you, Victor. Help us finish what we started." 8. The embedded arborealist, their respite was cut short when a mysterious stranger arrived, seeking the artifact at any cost. The group fought valiantly to protect it, but found themselves outmatched by this formidable opponent. Luna sacrificed herself during the battle, urging Elijah and Zara to escape with the artifact while she held off their attacker. As they fled deeper into the forest, Silas returned with his minions, catching up to them at a crossroads. A final confrontation ensued, testing Elijah's newfound powers as he fought alongside Zara against both the stranger and Silas forces. In a climactic moment, Elijah struck down the mysterious assailant, saving Zara from certain death. Having secured the artifact, they discovered the entrance to the grove of refuge hidden deep within the forest. The group entered this hidden sanctuary, finding a campfire and other human-turned monsters who welcomed them with open arms. Elijah shared their story, gaining respect from these fellow travelers who had been living in peace for centuries. They revealed that Luna's sacrifice was not in vain. Her death would inspire the next generation of forest dwellers to rise up against Silas and the monstrous apocalypse. Elijah decided that he could no longer hide from his destiny as a hero. He accepted his transformation, vowing to lead these humans-turned monsters in a rebellion against Silas and his followers. With renewed purpose, they prepared for the final battle, knowing that victory would determine not only their fate, but also the future of humanity itself. As they awaited Silas' next move, Elijah's group continued to train and strategize, strengthening their bonds and honing their abilities. They also encountered a young woman who claimed to have information about the artifact that could tip the scales in their favor. However, her intentions remained unclear, creating tension within the group as they debated whether to trust her or not. Meanwhile, Silas' forces continued to gather strength, with whispers of dark rituals and forbidden magic being practiced deep within his stronghold. As the final battle approached, Elijah and his allies knew they had one last chance to change the course of history and bring hope to a world teetering on the brink of destruction. The days leading up to the final battle were filled with tension as Elijah, Zara, Victor, and their allies prepared for the impending conflict against Silas and his minions. They had trained tirelessly, honing their powers and strengthening their bonds. The Grove of Refuge served as their base of operations, offering them protection and a sense of belonging that Elijah had never experienced before. One morning, they received word that Silas' forces were moving closer to their sanctuary. A sense of urgency filled the air as everyone knew that time was running out. Zara led a scouting party to gather intelligence on Silas' movements while the rest of the group focused on fortifying their defenses. As twilight approached, Elijah stood atop an ancient oak tree, gazing out over the dense thicket of trees that surrounded them. He could feel the energy in the air, a mix of fear and determination from his allies and an unsettling sense of anticipation from Silas' minions. He looked down upon the narrow path they had carved within the tree's trunk, leading to their hidden chamber filled with glowing crystals. Just then, a sudden commotion echoed through the forest, followed by the sound of crashing branches and yelling voices. Zara returned at a dead run, her face pale and frightened. "They're coming," she gasped, pointing towards the heart of the forest. "Silas leads an army, and they've found us." Elijah nodded grimly, already making mental preparations for the battle ahead. He turned to Luna, who stood beside him. "We must protect this artifact at all costs," he said quietly. "If we lose it, everything will be lost." Luna looked into his eyes, her own filled with sorrow and resolve. "I understand," she replied. "Go forth, my friend. You have the strength within you to save us all." With a final nod, Elijah leaped from the tree, landing gracefully on the forest floor below. He turned to Zara and Victor, who stood ready with weapons in hand. "Let's end this," he growled, his voice filled with anger and determination. As they set off towards the heart of the forest, they could see the ominous-looking massive oak tree that marked Silas' stronghold looming ahead. The sounds of battle reached them even before they arrived, as Elijah's group found themselves surrounded by Silas' minions. The ensuing conflict was fierce and brutal. Elijah fought with newfound fury, his powers surging within him like never before. He could feel Luna's spirit guiding him, urging him to be strong and protect the artifact at any cost. Zara fought alongside him, her sword flashing through the air as she cut down minion after minion. Victor proved cunning and deadly, using his charm to turn Silas' forces against each other before striking with swift precision. But amidst the chaos, a stranger emerged from the shadows, attacking Elijah with ferocity. The two battled fiercely, their powers clashing in an explosion of energy that rocked the forest. Zara and Victor joined the fight, trying to fend off other minions who sought to claim the artifact for themselves. In a moment of desperation, Elijah felt a surge of anger coursing through him. He channeled it into his powers, unleashing a torrent of energy that engulfed both him and the stranger. As the flames died down, he found himself standing victorious over the fallen form of the mysterious assailant, who lay motionless on the forest floor. Victor approached, staring at the stranger's lifeless body with a mixture of disgust and fear. "What have we done?" he whispered, his voice trembling. Elijah knew that they had no time to dwell on it. Silas was still out there, waiting for them to falter so he could strike. They pressed onwards, determined to reach the heart of Silas' stronghold and end this war once and for all. As they approached the massive oak tree, they found themselves in a narrow passage carved within its trunk, leading to the hidden chamber where the artifact was kept. As they entered, they discovered that Silas awaited them, surrounded by his most loyal minions. A cold smile spread across his face as he looked upon Elijah and his allies. "I've been waiting for you," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "And now, it is time to see who will rule this forest." The battle that followed was intense and brutal, testing the limits of their powers and their resolve. Elijah fought with all his might, determined to protect the artifact at any cost. Zara proved herself a fierce warrior, her sword never far from Silas' heart. Victor used his charm and wit to manipulate Silas' minions, turning them against their master, just as Elijah had done earlier in the battle. But despite their efforts, Silas remained unfazed, his powers growing stronger with each passing moment. He seemed almost invincible, leaving Elijah and his allies struggling to find an opening. It was then that Luna's spirit appeared before them, her form ethereal yet solid. She urged them to remember their purpose, reminding them that they were the last vestige of humanity and that they could not fail. Elijah felt a surge of strength coursing through him as he took up his axe once more, determination filling his eyes. With one final, powerful swing, he struck Silas down, shattering his armor and sending him crashing to the ground. The forest seemed to tremble at the sound of his fall, as if the very earth itself mourned the loss of its alpha monster. As darkness closed in around them, Elijah looked upon his fallen enemies and knew that their victory was complete. They had saved their home from the monstrous apocalypse, forging a new path as guardians of the forest. The artifact glowed brightly in his hand, its energy pulsing with life. He turned to Zara and Victor, who stood beside him, their faces etched with exhaustion but also pride. "We did it," Elijah whispered, his voice filled with emotion. "We saved the forest." Zara smiled wearily, her eyes shining with tears. "Yes, we did," she replied, "but our work is not done yet. We must rebuild and heal both ourselves and this land." Elijah nodded gravely, knowing that they had much to do before they could truly consider their mission complete. He looked down at the artifact in his hand, feeling its power coursing through him like a living thing. It was more than just an object. It represented hope, a beacon of light in a world that seemed consumed by darkness. With renewed purpose, Elijah, Zara, and Victor set out to rebuild their homes within the forest, determined to create a new future for themselves and all those who had followed them on this long journey. They knew that it would not be easy, but they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their resolve to protect their home and each other. As twilight fell upon the forest, Elijah stood atop an ancient oak tree, gazing out over the land he now called his own. He could feel the energy of the artifact humming within him, a constant reminder of all they had achieved and the sacrifices they had made. He looked down upon the grove below, where their allies awaited them, ready to join forces with Elijah and his companions in rebuilding their world. For the first time since his transformation, Elijah felt at peace. He knew that they had not only saved the forest but also forged a new path forward as guardians of this ancient land. And as he gazed out upon the horizon, he couldn't help but feel a sense of hope for the future.